Hello, my name is Marcus. I'm the compiler of a collection of therapy quotes entitled 1001 Windmills of the Mind, a collection of advanced self-help quotes taken from what's often called the psychodynamic or the psychoanalytic perspective, which long ago, as I understand, is referred to by some, or perhaps many, as philosophical medicine or narrative medicine. All part of the general innate drive to heal ourselves. In nature, when something's wounded, there's this innate built-in capacity for healing to take place. With humans, though, the key factor is consciousness. We need our conscious awareness of the trauma, and that facilitates making the unconscious conscious. That way we can assimilate, process, digest, recognize, and then we feel safe by that. So that's sort of the idea about how consciousness is the key here. It's sometimes called building the ego, restoring the ego, enhancing the ego. So these quotes, reading, literature, all that builds your sense of curiosity, wonderment, what's going on here. Study patterns, study projection, study repetition compulsion, study all the defense mechanisms, identification with the aggressor, second splitting, different personality patterns, the narcissistic patterns. So there's a thing called intrapsychic structure, endopsychic structure, template, schema, blueprint, imprint, stencil, stamp, like a kind of a schemata working model, prototype laid in. The interpersonal leads to the intrapsychic. And this intrapsychic model functions like a lens that we see the world through. So every day you see things through that lens. In a way, you're kind of still in the past. If you see everything through the filter of the past, you're not really properly seeing the present in the present. Most in particular, if that imprint we laid down is based on a traumatic event. And that traumatic event prevented the child from maintaining his budding beauty and his emerging self, called arrested development, stunted development. Yes, he develops in other ways, but in the feeling area, he's stunted there. So that's where you love and creativity and pleasure and connect and bond. And so most of the capacities of the regular quote-unquote humans that are being human come from the feeling self, the beingness, the ontological self, the sensitive self, the feeling self, the beingness, the embodiment, the ensoulment. Okay, the yin, the beingness, the sweet, inexhaustible fullness of being. Like the moon, they would say that the yin and the moon. So they would say like the feminine. If they use feminine and masculine, they would say the feminine is your soul, and the doing that expresses the feminine is the masculine of the doing. So moon and sun, or night and day, like that. We need this moon place first. We need this beingness. Then you're doing this normal, ethical, when it's heart lived, being-based, heart-based. That's the meaning. When you come from your beingness, then what you're doing is ethical, moral, virtuous. Because you have your feelings, you have your golden ball, you have your embodiment, you have your home within, like that. And the natural state of affairs is to express what's unique about us. Everyone's a little unique like that, and that's the pleasure of sharing and being who we are, kind of thing. So that's a core part of us, even called the core self. In the Greek myth, this core, representing the core self, gets pulled down. Earth opens up, she gets pulled down. The metaphor means you see the chasm in the earth, the crack in there is a chasm. So they would use somebody, I think the idea was they used the metaphor of the chasm in the earth, like a crack in the earth, like a gap in the earth, like a fault in the earth. Some guy called it the basic fault, the core fault. A fundamental wrong took place, i.e. there was a gap between what the baby needed and what he got. He needed love, he got trauma, a gap, soul pulls down. So this core could be like the core of the person, like the heart of the person, the soul of the person, similar idea. So that means you got a chasm image to represent that a beingness can't be, the princess can't be there. So the princess is a symbolization of the soul. So the embodiment, feeling real and alive, the feminine is the princess. So princess is not there. Where's the princess? Well, she's lost. So enter Emily Dickinson. There's a pain so utter. It swallows substance up, the substance, our core, and then we go into a swoon. So the mercy is the brain senses endorphins, and we go into a swoon. So we're kind of numb like that. So we're not really aware of it because we're in a bit of a stupor. We're kind of numb to it. But the memory of the trauma is there. In the intrapsychic world and the inner world, or the unconscious world, we live in two worlds. In this underworld, this shadows world, like that, somewhere in the body, implicit memory, procedural memory, the body bears the burden, the body keeps the score, mysteriously between mind and the body. So this is the idea that somehow the brain records this. Human connections lead to neural connections. There are neural connections laid down according to the relationship with the mother. Human connections lead to neural connections like that. So it's recorded in the neural connections. And that part of the brain doesn't know time, and that part of the brain just thinks about survival, right? Okay, so yeah, that's a pretty clear image for trauma, that the feeling part of us is not available to us. Miss Core got pulled down due to the gap. Okay. Another way to describe the swoon is the pin goes on the collar and the emotional body goes flat. So under the collar is considered flat affect. In ancient times, people called this athemolexia, no feelings for your words. Nowadays, alexithymia, no words for your feelings. But we live to the extent that we feel. We live to the extent that we come from this embodiment, our ensoulment, our feeling self, our ontological self, our sense of self, our true self, our real self. We live to the extent that we're there. We're meant to live from there. If that's all frozen, symbolized in fairy tales with Miss Core getting pulled down, or sometimes the princess morphs into a bird and flies away, morphs into a fox or a deer and runs away. Sometimes in the imagery, she can stay in the form of the princess, but she's locked in a tower like Rapunzel, in a coma like Snow White, and so on down the line. So myths and fairy tales describe the monomyth, the universal human condition of Homo traumacus. We had our embodiment, it was there in the beginning. Usually at birth, it's gone. And in midlife, you want to get it back. This process of getting it back, beginning of midlife, is called the hero's journey. Part of the hero's journey is consciousness. So when you go in the labyrinth of the unconscious, or the twilight zone of the unconscious, when you go there, you need a thread. So these quotes we're posting here, hopefully for each person, there's enough there to piece together some kind of thread. Some guidance, some kind of night vision, a lantern. Back to Emily Dickinson, I have a lantern, and I'm in search for myself with the lantern. So these quotes are a bit of a lantern or a thread like that. They also help you to discern, like these quotes teach you how to discern between symbolic needs, defensive needs, which are there for the false self, versus the authentic needs that you needed. Can you discern between the real needs and the symbolic needs that were there because the real needs were not met? So when the real needs were not met, and you look for symbolic versions of that, can you discern between real needs and symbolic needs? That's a sort of discrimination, sort of discernment. So in the Perseus one, he had that sort of discrimination, sort of discernment to discern what's from the real self, what's from the fake self. Because the fake self has needs. The fake self has the need to stay fake to make you unaware of the pain of the loss of the true self. So you got to discern like that. Okay, Perseus had the reflecting mirror. So these quotes help you to give you a little bit of a pause to reflect. That's the reflecting shield mirror kind of thing. And you discern. So you reflect, discern, reflect, discern, thread, labyrinth. Now when you're in the labyrinth, before you get to the Minotaur or the Medusa, okay, i.e. the mother complex. So the core issue is the mother complex. Okay, she was impaired, she had emotional dyslexia, emotional warping, oh cunning tale, why did the mother fail the baby, and all the pain around it calls the mother complex. So when the baby is enraged with the mother, in his mind, the mentation, his own rage, poofs into a monster. That monster could be the Medusa or Minotaur like that. Take your pick. I'm playing the mellow song this time around because I got guests back there. I don't want to play some rock music. In the last video, we played a pop song by the singer David Cassidy, a song called "Lying to Myself." That was fun to play that one, yeah. Lying to myself. Okay, so back to the opening premise here, that we can find our narrative. See, narrative gives you a sense of time. Then you get your story. When you get your story, you can assimilate, process. So it's all about narrativization. We got to formulate, construct, piece it together. The shrinks even call it, got to reconstruct. I got to construct this thing, formulate this thing. Find a story of it all, basically. So we got to do it ourselves, kind of thing. Unique for each person, kind of thing. So, anyways, back to the quotes. So these 10,000 plus quotes are an assortment of quotes that I think are pretty clear. It's up to each person. It's going to be unique for each person which ones help like that. It does seem to be the 90-10 rule. I find it for myself applies. Like if I read back 10 quotes that are posted here, I might find one like myself like that. But this is just to prepare you. This is not like the only answer. The consciousness and the ideas lead to the feelings. It's the emotional knowing that we're looking for. It's the emotional knowing. That's the healing, the feeling side of it all. So ultimately, we need an emotional knowing. But to get the emotional knowing, you got to feel safe to have the emotional knowing. Psychoanalysis looks for an egg in a basket that's missing. So these quotes are weaving the basket, and then nature, the new potential of the egg can come back. The feeling, the soul can come back. The potential of the new budding soul can come back to the egg like that. So first build a nest or a basket, then the egg will come in. Psychoanalysis looks for an egg in a basket that's missing. You don't directly look for the egg, just weave the basket. Nature kind of does the rest like that. Yeah, so let's just quickly again. So in the labyrinth of the unconscious, so typically at midlife, a person gets often a glimpse that something's missing, something's off, something's wrong, they're not enjoying something. Maybe things are monotonous for them, or they feel ennui or something, or they've got it all, now what? There's something missing, whatever it is. Maybe there was a loss, and they're just in manic mode. Why are they so manic about a loss? Why can't they admit a loss? Maybe they heard about the idea when there's a loss, you gotta feel sad. They don't feel sad, they're manic, they're chasing. Why can't they feel sad? You need a beingness to feel sad. You gotta get your beingness. So if you don't have your beingness, you can't admit a loss. That's complicated grief, aggravated grief, the derailment of the grief process, which leads to this manic behavior. And then the dopamine flares up. Well, chase. What are you chasing for? Well, you're chasing for the love that you should have received back in the nursery. So you look for mirages or symbols of mother. Because that part of the brain doesn't know time. So you're looking for mirages of mother. But from the unconscious point of view, you're still looking for mother. So the rationalizing part of the brain gives you a cloak, cover, excuses. Go chase for that bottle of wine. Now there's mother. But the conscious doesn't think that. But the unconscious thinks, no, the bottle of wine's mother, the cookies mother, the ice cream's mother, the food, the material, the things you buy, that's mother. Gotta get mother, gotta get material, things, food, things that are symbolic, things that comfort you, soothe you, are sweet to you, beautiful thing, nice art, whatever so when real needs are not met, we have the unconscious hope for the fulfillment of old unfulfilled needs. So the basic core need was mother. Okay, the first mother was the breast mother. Okay. Now that's missing. Old cutting tail, that's a separate topic on why that failed. So when you look for mother, how do you look for mother? You're not in a nursery. Okay. So your unconscious puppet master, the secret self, the double self, the shadow self. So all of us that we don't know that's going on, it's called the double self, the secret self, the shadow soul, the one who walks with me, who's not like me, who is me. Someone's living my life, I know nothing about him. This hidden self, this denied self, everything about us. So this sort of, basically, knowledge of the trauma is going to be there. Your budding beauty, remember the soul flew away, is in that area as well. Okay, so this unconscious self says, we've got to find mother. So it's now functioning like a puppet master is going to get us pull our strings to look for mother. But we understand consciously we're not in a nursery. How do we look for mother? Well, the puppet master is in a lot of pain, so it tells us to think, no, it's on sale. Get that bottle of wine. It's on sale. It's healthy, or whatever. It's organic. Get it. Okay, the rationalization sounds reasonable. Made from fruit juice, can't be that bad. So you make an excuse, but the unconscious is good. I fooled him. Good, I fooled. There's mother. I'm gonna get mother. Go get mother. Dopamine. Go chase. Get mother. So he makes the person think that he's just buying some healthy fruit wine on sale or something. This works by associations. We need comfort and sweetness and mother's material comfort, maternal support like that. So we associate things, mostly money, mostly in the area of money, because you can buy things that comforts you. So shopping is going to be big there. Materialism is going to be big there. So you're looking for symbolic mother. That's the nature of repetition compulsion. We got to get out of the pain that mother inflicted. So we want mother. We don't want a frozen time with the painful mother. We want a loving mother. So that part of the brain is suspended in a state of timelessness. It's eternal, forever. There's no sense of time in that part of the brain. So it's doing it all the time. Get into repetition compulsion. Get a better outcome. Find mother. Get a better outcome. But the event did take place. But the system is driven by the pain to find mother. The pain drives us to find mother. How do you find mother when you're not in a nursery? Again, symbols. Look for symbols of mother. Usually it's food, usually it's money. So gambling can be there and you might win and you make excuses. It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. But the rationalization comes in to fool you that it's reasonable. Rationalization means you're doing something ridiculous. But you believe it's reasonable. It fools you and it fools others. He's got to protect the quest to find mother. But you don't want to know that the wine is not mother. You just think it's just a reasonable, healthy beverage. A little bit's okay. Make excuse. Celebrates, whatever. So this can lead to oral fixations, by the way, the cigarettes and the gambling, the smoking. It can become addictive like that, because when you're in chase mode, that's dopamine. Okay? You're chasing for a mirage mother. But what's happening is it doesn't work. It just works there's a fantasy element, so for a moment it works, for a minute, because the thing you're chasing, okay, functions as an ATM, an addictive trigger mechanism. It's a fantasy thing. It's a thing, but you fantasize that. No, it's a thing, but the thing, okay, called the ersatz self-object. Alman and Paul called the things the ersatz self-object. They function as a triggering device, a flinting, like a triggering thing. So when you get the ice cream, it happens to be that the presence of the ice cream fills in for the missing breast image. So there's no breast mother in the mind, right? There's no mother in the mind, like a good loving mother. So for a minute there, it triggers the time when you did have a loving mother, even if it was just in the uterus. Some kind of blissful oneness of mother, this oceanic feeling, this euphoria, this blissful happiness, participation, mystique, unio, mystica. Okay, you're floating, you're happy, you're Garden of Eden, Shambhala, you're safe, you're in a blissful oneness, symbiotic merge, So that ice cream can trigger the time when you were one with the mother. That triggering mechanism breaks up the old experience, the old memories, and that triggering of those past memories or fantasies now blip up they blip up those past memories like a pathological nostalgia of the good old days. And when you remember the good old days of being in a blissful time with the mother, it releases chemistry, the chemistry of oxytocin and serotonin. So for a little while, through the blipping mechanism, you get those good chemical feelings. And when you feel safe and loved, the stress you were feeling pushes back. But that was just a blipping thing. The stress comes back. Dopamine says chase for a symbol to trigger the fantasies of happiness, get up those happy chemicals. The painful chemicals push back. Okay? And again, it's a blipping thing, so you do it again. And now you're in this kind of loop where you're chase, fantasy, trigger up good feelings, painful feelings go back. Painful feelings come up, chase for the good feelings, and the painful feelings go back. It comes forward again, chase for a fantasy to push back, get the good feelings which push back the painful feelings, and once again, you're doing a cycling kind of. So this topic is discussed at length in Alman and Paul's excellent book entitled Narcissus in Wonderland, a great book, underappreciated book. I can't believe it's not a bestseller. It's really a good book. Never mind about the co-ed stuff and all that. I'm talking about the theory about like you're not addicted to the wine. You're just using the wine to remind you of the good old days. And when you're reminded of the good old days, then you get the chemistry of that. That's what you're after. You need something to bring up the chemistry of the past. That's what you're after. So you're not addicted to wine. You're addicted to the chemistry that's released following the fantasy release of the memory, stimulated by the triggering mechanism of the wine. Right? Yes, sure, of course, there's physical properties that might be involved like that. For example, the concentrated sugar of the fruit juice tells the mammalian part of the brain that the person's safe. So the mammalian part of the brain gets a flood of sugar. Oh, wow, well, we're safe, physically safe. So from the physical safety point of view, the sugar tells the brain we're safe. When you feel safe, you get the serotonin. So you get a blip of serotonin just simply by the food, like the chemistry of the food like that. But it's mainly a psychological thing. There's a double thing going on. There's the practical thing and the fantasy thing. Again, Alman and Paul's book covers all that. Now, in trauma, why the manic is so involved is because the more trauma there is, the more stress there is. Okay? When there's trauma, when the baby has trauma, so we're talking about relational trauma, developmental trauma, attachment trauma, interpersonal trauma, strain trauma, okay, where there's some kind of failed interaction with the mother took place. Mother used the baby to meet her needs, wasn't around for the baby, didn't understand the signals, missed a tune, was resentful, whatever was going on with the mother, the baby's needs they weren't met, right? So in that case, the baby's in survival mode. Okay, so the soul flies away, the swoon, the pin, okay, is in survival mode. The circuits, he's enraged. in his own rage rebounds in on himself. He's got to pleasurize it, sugarcoat it, deny his own anger at the mother to himself. So the anger he has at the baby directs at himself. That's quite painful like that. So he sugarcoats it. That's a quote-unquote major crime in the psyche. So he's got to be active. Dopamine chase to push back the painful feelings. Chase. So he's going to be in manic mode, basically. So in other words, in conclusion, the more trauma there is, okay, the more the set point of stress hormones and oxytocin, cortisol, adrenaline, and in particular dopamine. The more trauma, the more dopamine. The more stress, the more dopamine. Dopamine means chase to get mother so you can feel safe. And okay, again with trauma, the good chemicals, the set points in the brain of oxytocin for love and serotonin for pleasure and happiness are too low. So you don't enjoy anything. That's why, was it Lemke or Previc or Lemke, one of those two were saying, people in manic never enjoy something. They chase, the famous song, Chase Better Than Catch. I'm not a fan of it really, but anyways, a catchy lyric. You chase, but when you get something, you can't enjoy it. Why? Because the set point of serotonin is too low. You can't enjoy it. Relationships, chase, found the girl, can't love, because the set point of oxytocin is too low. So you're just looking up for the chemicals to push back the pain. Chase for the fantasy to push back the pain. Chase, fantasy, push back the pain, and so on. So that's why they never enjoy anything. They gotta chase. So these are the people that, go somewhere or do something, next. They can't enjoy anything because the set points are too low like that. So in trauma, the set points are too low. Janoff's interpretation of repetition compulsion is you repeat the past in the present, hoping to correct the set points. But the present's not the past, so the set points are set in. Back to consciousness, we gotta have a consciousness of how mother failed us. Now, a key point, I would say, one of the best points made in the last last video done at the what's that? What are we going to call that place? I was in the smokers section of a restaurant. It was sort of like a balcony kind of thing. Okay, never mind. In the last video, let's put it this way: go to the short section in this channel here. There's a clip entitled. There's a clip entitled "The Mother Not Having Her True Self." The mother not having her real self. It was her false self that traumatized the baby. So in the forgiveness journey, mother hurt us, but she didn't have her real self. Otherwise, she wouldn't hurt the baby. She was in false mode, defensive mode. She was in panic mode. She was trying to chase her mother. She was maybe turning the baby to mother her. I made you to find me, she says. Or she wants to know the story of what happened to her, so she treats the baby badly the way she had been treated. So in her attempt to know that she was treated badly, so she repeats onto the child so she can know what had happened to her, because she identifies with the aggressor, casts her own baby in the role of her back then. She plays the mother, replays in that state of timelessness what happened to her. She repeats what happened to her, but this time she gets her own baby to play herself. She plays the mother. She's the mother. Okay, and the mother hurt her. She gets the baby to play her, and she's the mother, so she as the mother hurts the baby as her. So she's repeating things in an attempt to get the story. In order to heal, you got to get your story, but the mother doesn't know the story. So she repeats behaviorally in an attempt to get the story. It's called experimental recollection, trying to remember. Once again, the most famous line of psychoanalysis: if we don't have any history or memory, we repeat till we do. So the mother's trying to get a story that her mother traumatized her, but she doesn't know her mother traumatized her. So she has a baby and traumatizes the baby in her attempt to know that that's what happened to her. She's doing it behaviorally, so her consciousness can observe this and step back and say, oh my God, where did I learn this from? Who taught me this? My mother did this to me. And I'm doing this for me to know my mother did this to me. Sorry, baby. I got my story now. So she have to make some kind of amends afterwards. But we're trying to get our story. Is this okay like this? I said it like this. Trying to link himself up. 1 second. Okay, just quickly, I mentioned dopamine because we just completed a set of quotes, like 5 videos on dopamine, just on dopamine. So mostly by Professor Previk from his book called The Dopaminergic Mind. Miss Lemke's bit of a rock star on YouTube, posting her lectures all the time, called Dopamine Nation. And the guys who wrote the book, The Molecule of More, Molecule of Chase, goal, anticipation, motivation. So dopamine's for the chase, thinking that if you find a mirage mother, its mother, then you feel safe. So dopamine for the chase, serotonin from the catch. But the catch is just a triggering of the mother in the past, so you get the serotonin because you're reminded of the time when you were safe. Plus the reality that if you do get something, you're practically safe. If you get a new house, it's a nice neighborhood, you feel safer, so you feel calmer like that. So there's a practical side to it, but it's it doesn't give you the safety that you should receive with your mother. You see, so there's a limit like that. Yes, of course, we all want to be as comfortable as we can like that, but that's why the wealthy live in castles and all that. They're still not happy. It doesn't heal the core issue of the mother not making the baby safe. The mother traumatized the baby. No thing in the present is going to correct that. Only mourning corrects it. Only some kind of process of consciousness to the level where there could be an emotional knowing of it. No pursuit of material, no greed, no things you can correct that in the past. Okay, so you can have Libby Russell, our key author on this topic, says you can have 20 lifetimes buying stuff. It's not going to correct the trauma that took place in the nursery originally with the mother. Okay. So this symbolic pursuit, is the dopamine for mother. It repeats the failure. Now in the failure, what happened with the failure? You were enraged. You sugarcoated it. Major crime. You can't know this. You can't know your mother betrayed you. You gotta have some tie to the mother, and that's your tie to the mother. That you made the pain and you fixated at the rejection of a mother hurting you. You made it pleasurable. You can't coat it. Sugar. You can't know it, so you cloak it. You cloak the sugar coating, right? He sugarcoats the pain and then cloaks it. That's called the defense against the defense. Okay, at this point here, you gotta go to Edmund Burglar. Edmund Burglar, one of our mentors, 24 books in the papers. Oh my God, it was nice to see somebody, and somebody posted a clip, a little video on the internet. He mentioned Burglar. First time I've heard, that's the second time I've ever heard anybody mention Burglar. Oh no, correction, that's the third time, yeah. So he's, maybe there's more recognition of Burglar now. That's funny, yeah. In this year alone, I've heard 2 references to Burglar. He was praising his work and saying, people should read him, check him out, all that. Earlier this year, somebody, there was like a pod, like a one of those community community listener supporter radio programs, like a fund and all that. They did like a special. And in that special on the topic made reference to Burglar a fair bit. So let's not redo that one now. Okay, where are we here? Let's get back on track here. Suddenly I'm distracted for some reason. Okay, hang on here. Maybe it's this chair. Maybe the chair's too curvy. I feel like it's too. I should put something behind it or something. Or just sit up a bit. Yeah, let me try. Hold on a second. Sorry, give me a second. All right, so let's get back on track here. So yeah, dopamine, so we're manic like that. The more trauma, the more manic, the more chase. So that's a sign of trauma, that there's too much dopamine going on. Now everybody's got dopamine. There's a healthy dopamine in your motivation to express your real self, and that's a warm, there's a calmer quality about it. The dopamine following trauma is a more panic kind of thing. It's more about fear. So the more stress and the more adrenaline, the more chase. So that's why people are so manic. It's just, they're in a survival place. Chase your mother, go, come on, come quick. It's like an urgent thing, right? Because the baby thinks he's gonna perish. The baby thought he was gonna die and all that. So you're chasing madly. So this chase is a desperate chase for mother. So dopamine is the chemistry that makes you chase, like that. Because once again, the memory is the baby thought he was, or she was gonna be a goner with no mother. If the mother hurts him, where does the baby, who does the baby turn to? The one that's hurting him, he's double bind, right? He's got it, he's got to. Mother hurts him, he accepts it, takes the pain of it all, and libidoalizes it. Psychic masochism. He finds a way to nullify it by making it pleasurable. A little trick in the mind makes it pleasure. That's a major crime, quote unquote, major psychological crime within. So he doesn't want to know that, but he's pain there and he's fixated there. And to protect this tie to the mother, this link to the mother, he's got a cloak because the pain, he can't know it. So that's why your manic behavior is a cloak for this sugar coating. So again, this is called confession to lesser crime. So the child commits a quote-unquote major crime by making pain pleasurable, as considered a major crime. Somehow the psyche, Berger's metaphor, like there's a courtroom in the psyche, in the unconscious. The judge, the superego says, well, you're going to suffer for this. I mean, you made pain pleasurable. That's a major crime. So we'll make you confess to the lesser crime of being dysfunctional to protect this setup, because you still need mother. You never got mother's love, but I'm not going to let you know and feel the pain of all this because you can't handle the truth. So I'll make you defensive. I'll make you live in defensive mode, neurotic living, dysfunctional living. He calls it pseudo living or pseudo aggression or provisional living. This is all the oral fixations and repetition compulsion, dysfunctional living like that. And all that is a defense. That's back to defensive needs. So then now you have defensive needs. Okay. Now, if it's before 18 months, it's narcissistic based. Post 18 months, but before 36, it's more like the codependent pleaser kind of base. So you got the two categories of the stingers and the clinger area. So in the stinger area, you got narcissism and bully pattern, Iago pattern like that. Post 18 months, you got more like the codependent, the pleasers. What narcissism refers to as the higher functioning BPD like that. Okay, so the first defense mechanism, the baby sends away the soul, puts himself into a sewer. Okay, the anger that he feels, he turns it in on himself, but makes it pleasurable. Psychic masochism. Can't know it. System says you can't know this. You confess to lesser crime, so he'll be dysfunctional. But the rigmarole of his behavior is he's fixated, because he's got to protect mother. He's got to save the mother, protect the mother, cure the mother. That's his tie to the mother, the pain with the mother, his anger with the mother within. Now in the imagination, his rage poops into a monster. Now the monster's attacking him. It's his own anger to the mother attacking himself makes it pleasurable. He can't know it. So he's got this phenomenon where his own anger is his link to the mother, but it's hurting himself, so he sugarcoats it, but it's still going on. But then he distracts himself by pseudo-living. Again, oral fixations, repetition compulsion. In the repetition compulsion, you recreate a contemporary daily versions of the past again and again. So it's just same script, different cast. So in the present, you cast people in the roles of the script, same script. Before 18 months, you play the aggressor, others play you. And then post 18 months, you play yourself, others play your rejected mother, and you coax and orchestrate and misuse the situation, manufacture the situation, prod people into roles to fit the template, the stencil like that. Okay, I'm doing it too quick here like this, but Okay, in previous videos, I kind of spelled this out a little more depth. What I'm leading to is I want to pick up on a previous thing we discussed, maybe like 4 years ago or something, or 5 years. This channel is 5 years old, by the way. Happy birthday! So roughly 5 years ago, I posted a couple of quotes from Masterson, one of our mentors, James F. Masterson. He's got an excellent book called The Emerging Self, and it's about something that he calls closet narcissism. Now, 5 years ago, I was just guessing around a bit, and I kind of put it aside. And this morning, I finally got like a little aha moment about it. So I want to focus on Masterson's book called The Emerging Self. Now, this is preview mode. The quotes are 3160 something, well, 3165 and 6. So I'm not going to comment on the quotes below because I did it already in preview mode before. I've got a huge backlog of quotes. I'm still trying to play catch up like that. But I want to do a preview of Masterson's work from 3165, 6, maybe 7. There might even be 3 in there. And I might even read a part of the book as well. I was very confused by his phrase, closet narcissism. So we all know about narcissism, right? But usually when people talk about narcissism, they talk about the exhibitionistic, the overt one, right? People who boast about their special status, they're entitled, no empathy, cold, and they got to get, receive. They're still like little babies expecting the world to be the breast which you want to siphon. They own the world, they own the breast, they should give, they're entitled. They're like a little baby, you want to suck everything, called narcissistic supply. Okay, everyone's like a symbolic breast. It's a thing, baby thinks the breast is the thing that he owns, so they think they own everything, they're entitled. Huge sense of entitlement, huge sense of specialness, and the mother should admire them all the time. So they're center stage, all about them, and don't care about others, because others are things that should serve them. So that's the exhibitionistic one. And they're intuitive, their antennas, hypersensitive. How can they make that happen? So they can be charming, and they can be, Masterson called it, they're like Venus flytraps. They can suck you in and all that. So we all know about the charm of the narcissists and the Don Juans and the Playboys and the Playgirls and all that. So they can be very alluring like that to appeal to you. But really they're trying to suck in narcissistic supply. So they're center stage. Feed them all the time. Make it all about them all the time. Admire them, give to them. They don't give anything back in return. People with narcissism think that they have no sense of your value like that or something. They just think you're you're a symbol of the breast that should serve them. Because when the baby's nursing with the breast, from the baby's point of view, the breast is something he owns. It's a part of him. It's an extension of him. It belongs to him. It's his property, so to speak, and it should serve him, take care of him. They're coming from that kind of attitude like that. So they never got out of that phase like that. So yeah, let me stick up that nurse. Hold on a second. Or just wait till we get to open up the book. It's in the book. So anyways, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Are we finished with the introductory kind of point? Let's wrap up quickly the introductory kind of phase here. So we're born 360 embodied. Okay, the feeling self goes away. Get numb. Okay, anger goes in. Make a pleasure. Put a cloak on it. The pseudo living, dysfunctional living, which protects the mother, protects the tie. Now this pseudo living, sometimes it's very convincing to go by, because it's called sublimation. You find some outlet and you get a lot of benefits, but you're still fixated there. You're still not embodied. You still don't feel a warm love for any, or you don't. You know, a clue is the sexuality, that they can't bridge it together. They might be married, but then having a mistress, they can't bring it together like that. So the heart and the body are kind of fragmented like that. At that point's coming up as well. The friendships, they're not mutual. There's no mutuality. They want admiration like that. They usually find occupations that fuel that. So that's, they go by that. It's a very defensive living. It's a very armored defensive living. So we'll get to that. Okay, so On second thought, let's just jump into it. Okay, let's jump into Masterson's work. So he's man, oh man, passed away, I don't know, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, something like that. He wrote like, I don't know, a good dozen books and a couple of sort of like article collections. His book that bridges to the public, the book he wrote for like the public was called The Search for the Real Self. So it's kind of like a bridge for the public to his other books kind of thing. His books are actually, he's a clear writer all around. You can read any of his books. Okay, so let's start at the beginning here. Let's go back a sec. When the baby had his authentic self, called the budding beauty, it's also called the emerging self. It's supposed to stay with him. That's his real self-activation, his real self-living. Okay, when the mother crushes him, okay, he felt what's called abandonment depression, persecutory, rage, fury, helplessness, shame, disgust, all that stuff, right? Feels like a bug or whatever. He feels squashed, devalued, humiliated, unlovable, unworthy, all that stuff. Immense amount of shame there, right? Fury, shame, rage, the whole gambit. His phrase is abandonment depression, and an umbrella term for all those unpleasant feelings. Okay, so the baby had his budding beauty, his real self-activation, real self-living, real self-being. He had it, mother crushed it. Okay, now in the pain, whenever there's pain, you do defensive things to make you unaware of the pain. Okay, so typically, what happened is that the child originally developed these operations of the mind, maneuvers of the mind, to bury the pain of it all. Okay, so that setup is there. Okay, flash frozen, there's an imprint there. You live by this imprint, which means in life, when you self-activate, you're feeling that imprint. Okay, so Masterson's most famous axiom, or the most famous line, if Masterson had like a one line that he's most famous for, it's self-activation triggers abandonment depression, which leads to defense. So in your regular life, if you try to come from your real self, you're going to be reminded of abandonment depression. So all that fear is going to come up. Now, past fear coming up to you is called anxiety. So sometimes it's called massive anxiety. Okay, so old fear coming to you is through the body. The body, you all have all the anxious symptoms. Okay, heart palpitations, sweating, stuttering, whatever. Whatever the anxiety symptoms are. Okay, so real self-activation. It's going to remind you of the time when you had a real self and mother crushed, mother failed it, right? And you felt all the pain. So real self-activation triggers the abandonment depression, and then there's going to be some kind of defense. Now, in the third part, the defensive part, there can be a variety of things. The oral fixation, or devalue others to restore your esteem like that. So there's a devaluing narcissism. Of the many types of narcissism, one of them is the devaluing narcissism. Okay, so when you devalue others, you feel, by comparison, you feel special. If the other's you and you feel like you're the mother and the mother was above you. If it's the closet narcissist, then they just over-idealize someone to bask in their greatness and think they're special by the association of the other person being so special. So they might amp up their over-idealization of others to feel special, and it's a narcissistic phenomenon. And that's Masterson's point. Your energy's on the outer to feel special, basking in the outer glow that you put on them, so to speak. So you put it. So the closet narcissist puts a halo on others and basks in the glow. Put it that way. Whereas the regular exhibitionistic narcissist, no, he has the halo, and you're all servants, kind of. That's his attitude, right? The psychic structure is the same. The self and the other are fused. Okay, so the self is special and all that. The mother's like a goddess or something. You feel like a little baby king. The mother's a bigger goddess king, and it's one. Okay, that's one setup. And then in the exhibitionistic mode, you're coming from the special one. That means the other is not, there's no energy in the other one. The other one just serves you. But in the closet one, you have no energy for yourself. The other has all the energy, and you bask in the glow of the energy given to others. Now, that's one fused unit. Okay, psychic splitting, either or. So in trauma, the hurtful mother and the shame self form another fused unit. Okay, the devalued self and the rejecting mother. So when the person's in exhibitionist mode, it's permanently stabilized. So they're permanently cynical, they're permanently able to get their supply, and they can devalue it. They have a permanent ability, so they never feel the depression that's underneath. They have a more aggressive, dopaminergic ability to be a constant fill in the blank, jerk or whatever, fill in the blank, right? They're rude and selfish, like they could constantly be like that. They could be cold and harsh and insult you, and they have that knack like that. He said, in the case of the closet one, if they have no one to bask into, if the one they're admiring fails them or something, then they feel the abandonment depression because they're going to feel the shame side. So now they feel the underlying fused unit of the shame self and the rejecting mother. So they may feel depressed. So the closet narcissist might feel abandonment depression, but it's because their narcissistic needs are not met. So there's a difference between the abandonment depression from the narcissistic point of view, but only the closet narcissist gets that, versus the codependent, the pleaser, the caretaker, which he calls the borderline, higher functioning borderline, but he just simply says borderline. So in the borderline one, the higher functioning borderline, like the codependent, the pleasers, the caretakers, they're a little further along the development of continuum. The narcissism is fixated prior to 18 months. The borderline in Masterson's model is fixated post 18 months, but prior to 36 months. So when Masterson's borderline take, when the system doesn't, when the defensive system doesn't work, okay, they're always going to feel alone. What do I do? Helpless little child. They still have an identity, but they feel like a frightened child or something. They're not going to perish, nothing like that. They're okay. They're in pain, but they're okay. But in the narcissistic mode, okay, if those two, exhibitionistic or inverted voyeuristic closet one, if their system fails, it's more about identity. It's more about this emptiness and void of existential identity. They're in way more panic, way more fear. So it's a more of an immense focus on identity, existential identity crisis. Whereas the pleasers with the latter ones, it's more about the loss of people and feeling alone. But you don't think about the end of, you're going to be a goner. But the narcissist type think they're going to be a goner because the baby would be a goner if there was no mother. So that's the confusing thing about why Masterson was saying that a lot of therapists out there are confused. They have a client who they think is a BPD, and you approach it that way, but nothing happens. Masterson says, hold the phone here. They're not BPD. Many of these people are not BPD. They're closet narcissists. So your orientation is way more in the archaic place. In that archaic place, you have to do what's called mirroring interpretation of narcissistic vulnerability. So they're who you think they're borderline, no, they're narcissists. It's an earlier thing. And so he kind of clarifies this in his book called The Emerging Self. He says it in the introduction. He started in 85 and was unclear about it, and it was okay. And then in 93 he updated it. So now let's go to his updated book, the 93 one, The Emerging Self. Okay, so just quickly with narcissist. So narcissist looks into the pool of water, in the reflection, he sees himself. That's all he sees, right? So the mother's him. They're one. The mother is an extension of him. That's all he sees, just one. So narcissist sees his reflection is code for this issue. Now, you can also think of it that when narcissist pines away, waiting, sees only one. What's he waiting for in the reflection mode? Okay, he's waiting for mother to appear, to see him, so he can resume develop and feel seen by someone who saw him and resume develop. Mother never appeared. He's frozen in that oneness, and he dies, and he turns into the little flower, the narcissist flower. Okay, and they called the guy Mr. Narcissist after the flower for the psychology of narcissism, of not getting out of the oneness phase. Okay, now the two ways to think about echo. The embodiment is echo at the corner. This is soul flying off on the side, so he's disconnected from the soul. Echo being the soul. Echo turned to a statue. The soul turned to stone. So he was. That's like the pin in the color. Things are flat. Velveteen rabbit, frozen stone, whatever it is. That's one version of all. Another version of echo is what Narcissus wanted was the breast. So there's an image of a beautiful goddess, a perfect, beautiful girl, right? As a symbol for the breast. So Solvik was always in the background, and he was chasing him. He couldn't accept it. So in the Don Juan syndrome and the pure Playboy syndrome, they compare every woman to this imaginary goddess, dreamy kind of thing, which is a symbol for the breast. But no human woman is the breast in the nursery, which that symbol is of. So he compares the symbol of Solvik to everyone, and it doesn't work like that. So that's why they're repeating it. They chase, dopamine chase. Are you it? No. Are you Sol? So pure again. Chase. Are you Solvik? No. Chase. He was chasing his whole life for Solvik, but Solvik's an illusion of the good breast in the nursery, and he was chasing for that good breast, not knowing it. Rationalization. He made some rationalization. So he was in dopamine mode for the imaginary symbol of the good breast called Solvik. That's the second version of the echo one. They're both they both fit narcissism. So it's a condensation idea. You can have a symbol to represent several things. Huh? Okay, so think about that setup. The child's a child. The mother's a mother. But in his mind, in the map in the mind, they're one, fused. So you got a self-representation and the mother representation, or the other representation. It's fused. The baby was a special king and a god. And the mother's a goddess, basically, right? That's fused. So if in the mind the map is self and other fused, okay, like two overlapping circles. Just think of two overlapping circles pressed together, basically. So you got the self and other kind of merged like one, like that. So he sees everything in those kind of terms. All about him, everything serves him, the way the breast should serve the child. That's called that's the psychic structure of narcissism. Like that. Now there's another pair of the reality of what happened in terms of the pain. Okay, so there's the need and the pain like that. So from the need is like that, and the wishing is like that, and how he's got a hope in his life is like a narcissism is this kind of hope like that. But the reality is he was he felt shame, immense shame, and the mother was a monster. The monster is actually his rage on the mother. He projects his rage, makes the mother a monster. So now you got a monster, and he feels like a bug or whatever. Take your pick, some kind of shame entity. So you got this devalued self and this monster as fused units. Now they're kind of separate like that. So when you're operating, when narcissism gets his supply, he's kind of stabilized in that way. When he doesn't get his narcissistic supply, somebody says somebody slights him or something, thinks he's not important or ignores him, he's envious or something, can't get what he wants or something. It can trigger that other unit. You got the two units. When he triggers another unit, okay, then he'll be enraged, of course. He'll be narcissistic injury, narcissistic rage. He sees the mother's a monster. He's fighting with the monster. He feels devalued, so he's got to fight narcissistic injury. And it's more intense. It's about survival like that. So when narcissism operates from the first two circles, he's functioning like that. It's selfish, but he's functioning. But if that setup interfered with or something doesn't work for him like that. But Masters said usually the exhibitionist one's more aggressive, so they stabilize like that. They're way more manic, they're way more entitled, they're way more intuitive with the antenna to figure out ways to get their supply, and they're stabilized like that usually. So they never go to therapy. They don't listen to other people's opinion, because that's criticism. Feedback is criticism. No, they devalue you. The moment they think you think you're not special, they devalue you. What does he know? He's an idiot, right? So he'll always devalue others if there's an interruption to his narcissism. So the exhibitionist one is usually pretty stabilized like that, right? But he has the added point. But his thing is that some people, their life force is connected to the other, not to themselves. So they depend on the other being in a glow to bask in. And if that's interrupted, then they go to the other unit, and from the pain of that, they might drink, or they might be more of a drinker or something like that. So they might feel more of the abandonment depression. So in other words, closet narcissism shows more sign of his overt issues, like open drinking and smoking and depression and staying at home miserable. They show more signs of depression. So closet narcissists, when their system fails, they can show the signs of depression and so on, right? But the exhibitionistic one, they're depressed underneath. Of course they're depressed underneath. But they're manic depressive, right? So they're manic, and they don't see the depression underneath. So exhibitionistic narcissists, of course they're depressed with them, but they don't feel it, they don't know it. The manic behavior is a manic defense against depression. Mania is a defense against depression. Dopamania. Oh my God, that's a funny phrase, dopamania. It's interesting because that book I mentioned earlier called The Molecule of More, when that book got translated into the Romanian language, the publisher renamed the book for the audience in Romania, and they called the book Dopamania. That's a way better title, that one there, Dopamania. So we've been in Dopamania. We're dopamaniacs for the past 6,000 years, or 10,000 years on it. Because we're homotraumicus and trauma, lots of dopamine, so we're dopamaniacs. We're mad pursuit like that. We're plundering the planet in mania. We're manically plundering the planet, gobbling up the planet, and repeating what happened to us. That's mania. Baby felt his soul was robbed from him. He felt given emotional poverty, polluted by the mother, rejected by the mother. Identified with aggressive does that to the planet. He repeats onto the planet, okay, as a reflection of the inner state. His outer behavior is a reflection of his inner state. Okay, so baby had an embodiment, mother robbed her. Remember? Mother was a robber baron. Mother short-sold him. Mother plundered his home, gave him emotional poverty. Now he feels guilt and pain. He identifies with the aggressor. Okay, you have that imprint. You superimpose, you see everything through that lens. But in the aggressor mode, you play the rejecting mother, the short-selling mother, the robber mother, the mother who gives you poverty on the planet. So on the planet, now you got like 80% and poor because it reflects the inner emotional poverty. You got 80% or whatever in physical poverty to reflect the emotional poverty. Other people's homes are robbed because your inner home is robbed. Baby felt poisoned, maybe too much stress in the milk or the powder stuff. Identifies as aggressive and poisons the planet. And somebody said it's possible that in 2 decades there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. So we're dumping toxin and quote-unquote forever chemicals in the water to reflect the permanent feeling of being permanently toxic, receiving toxic milk from the mother. Milk with her cortisol, and she takes pills or something. She smokes or drinks or takes if she watches scary films or something. So if the mother is drinking, smoking, or taking pills or something while pregnant, that stuff goes into the child. He feels that he received a kind of toxin like that. Identifies as aggressor and puts toxins into the planet to reflect he received toxins from the mother. As above, so below. The above is the behavior we see overtly, like turn on the TV that we see all that. Okay? That's the reflection of the memory of what happened in the nursery. Now we don't have a videotape of the mother hurting the baby, so we don't really see it, but we remember it. So within, below, it's below. As above, so below. If the blow is based on trauma with the mother, baby identifies as aggressive and puts trauma on the planet. So the baby interprets the mother plundering him, he plunders the planet. Okay, now this topic is 7.5 hours. It takes 7.5 hours to run through as above, so below. So I need 2 liters of guava juice if I'm going to tackle that one. I did it. I had a liter of fresh pressed guava juice, and I went for 7.5 hours on that topic. Go to TQ, was it 2725 part 3 of 3. It's one of the longest videos I've done. I was a bit manic myself trying to cover it all in, because there's 49. It's got 49 symptoms of homotraumicus, as above, so below. The most recent one was the polluting one, because somebody said there's 10 billion plus tons of plastic dumped into the ocean. At the rate we're going, in 20 years or something, there'll be more it could be that there could end up being more plastic than fish in the ocean. So why are we dumping toxic, forever chemicals, toxic poisonous chemicals in the water? We're trying to know that when we were in the nursery, mother was in a bad mood and we got her cortisol in the milk. We don't know that. We don't remember that. The body knows. The body remembers. The puppet master knows. The puppet master is trying to tell us. The puppet master is trying to tell us, look what happened to you. You see how you're dumping plastic in the ocean? I'm trying to tell you, conscious, that your mother poisoned you with the cortisol and adrenaline and dopamine in her milk. The pills that she took, okay, the wine she was drinking, all the caffeine she took. The quote said, the mother can drink a little coffee only after the feeding, not before. If the mother does drink any coffee, it should only be just directly after the feeding. Because by the time the next feeding comes along, things will be okay. Don't ever drink coffee just before feeding. It'll go into the baby. That'll be the toxic, and it'll toxify the planet to reflect the mother drank caffeine when she was pregnant, when she was breastfeeding. A little chocolate's about the limit, I think they said. A little bit chocolate. Chocolate seems to be the limit of anything stronger than chocolate's going to hurt the baby. Then he poisons the planet, right? Okay, there's oh my God, yeah, that's again 7.5 hours. I feel the emotion of this, of the flood of material involved there. Because we're going to talk about the birthing procedure, the lotus birth procedure, and how mothers are put on the back with the legs up, and got to cover Klaus and Kennel's work. There's so much going on like that. So let's backtrack here with the Masterson, James F. Masterson. Okay, so think about what's called some kind of invisible model in the mind. It's all theory, of course. Nobody can see this practically. Or maybe there's some kind of scan that shows dots or something. I don't know. Yeah, maybe in the future there'll be some way to see this kind of thing. I don't know. But this is all by inference. This is all by speculation. This is all by theory. Object relations theory is a theory. It's a theory. Object relations theory. It's a theory. Okay. Object relations theory is the study of the internalization of interpersonal relationships. We study this. Baby has an interpersonal called attachment relationship. He internalizes it and then set him, and you see it reflected in his behavior later on. The study of all this is called object relations theory, or simply psychoanalysis. Same thing. Okay, let's read some of Masterson. Let's get into it. Okay, thank you, Tracy. Yeah, Ojibwe, indigenous singer. How am I going to do this? Okay, let's start here then. So, if somebody has a narcissistic personality pattern, if they do by chance go to therapy or something, usually they don't, right? If they do, it'll usually be a closet narcissist. People think they're BPD, so difficult, impossible to work with. Nothing works with them. They're so entitled and special, and nothing gets through to them. That kind of thing. So that's why Masterson has a whole book about the closet narcissistic disorder. The exhibitionistic ones never go to therapy. Almost never go to therapy. If they do, it's because the court ordered them or the wife told them to do it. Then it's just a game for them, just to fool. They can fool the thing, right? Only when women realize that they're being thingified and used like that, then they say to themselves, "I'm not going to do that anymore. No matter how charming he is, there's no emotional connection. I feel like a constant tourist here. You're charmed by it all. He had some certain kind of charisma or charm or handsome or something like that. But he has contempt for you. He shames you. He thinks you're a thing that should serve him. He thinks you should be thanking him because he gave you the opportunity to serve because he's a prince, king, and a god. He has this kind of attitude. there's no warm relating here. There's no two people. There's no companionate love. There's no companionate love in a narcissistic setup like that. So the partner might finally give up like that. Usually they suffer and stay or whatever. But so if by chance somebody with NPD does go to therapy, Masterson says what he found to be effective, what does get through is what he calls mirroring interpretation of narcissistic vulnerability. So a few examples of this as follows. Now this is just, I've taken this out of context. You got to read the case study for the overall context for these comments for it to make fuller sense. But just to give you a little idea about it. Okay, so the therapist, so Masterson or a Mastersonian trained therapist, I guess, if they exist, I'm not sure. After Masterson passed away, no one picked up the banner. His number one was a guy named Ralph Klein. He passed away, I think. His number two was Candace Orchid. I think she's alive, a young lady. I think she might be alive or something. Otherwise, she might be like the last Mastersonian therapist, a woman named Candace Orchid. I posted some quotes from her 2 books. She has 2 books out for the general public. Candace Orchid, but she's not a trainer or something like that. But she's only like a social worker who studied with him. And ironically, this social worker is like the best teacher or disseminator of his material, right? And her shrink was Ralph Klein, Masterson's number one protege or something. He passed away as well, right? But the Institute apparently is still around with a couple of followers or something. It fell up. It's not really functioning. You got to read the books on your own and pick it up on your own like that, from what I can tell. Okay, so Masterson would say things like, okay, so keep the context in mind. Okay, self-activation triggers abandonment depression, which leads to defense. So focusing on yourself, coming like from yourself kind of place, instead of admiring the other's halo that you put on them and basking in it like that. Okay, focusing on yourself, like what you need, what's real for you, like connecting with yourself like that. That leads to all the fears. So what you do to soothe yourself is to focus on the other. That's how you do it. You focus on the other and you bask in the other's glory, and you soothe yourself by vicariously thinking that you're them. Like they're a proxy of you. So if they're a star, you feel like a star, that kind of. But you're dependent on thinking they're a star. You don't focus on yourself. You focus on them being a star, and then you pretend you're them, kind of thing. That's called closet narcissism. You're in the dark like that, closet hidden like that. I used to call it voyeur narcissism, like you're voyeuristically. That's not a good phrase either. So let's just stick with the closet idea. Yeah, so the closet idea is you're kind of back in the closet like that, hiding, but you're feeling special and important because the one you admire, the one you put a halo on is such a star, and you feel the glow then, and you feel that's you, but you're hidden. You don't know yourself, you're empty, you're in a closet, like closet, empty closet, almost like that, maybe like that. Quote, it's my impression that as you try to connect with people from a real kind of place, make an I statement, tell your truth, you start to feel vulnerable. And then you are critical. And devalue the other in order to protect yourself. Did I get that? Oh, is there a typo here? It's my impression that as you try to connect, you start to feel vulnerable. Okay, so self-activation, as you want to connect, you want to make a warm connection with somebody, you want to tell the truth about yourself, you want to be vulnerable like that or something. You want to share what's real with you, what's alive with you, what's your truth. That's intimacy, that's connecting, intimacy. It's my impression that as you try to connect or self-activate, you feel vulnerable. So to protect yourself, you then criticize them. Okay, I gotta double check this. Okay, let's do the second one. Quote, you have such painful feelings about yourself and think others feel that way about you too, that you protect yourself by keeping yourself difficult to understand and hard to reach. So one defense mechanism is if there's any anxiety, you just you're passive aggressive, make yourself vague and difficult to reach, do the cold shoulder routine or something. Remember, these are the closet art, not the exhibitionists. Quote, it's so painful for you to say something that might not be accepted that you protect yourself by editing, revising, and losing your spontaneity. Okay, so there's the anxiety, right? You want to say your truth, but it's painful, so you're editing, you're afraid to say it, so you're editing. No, I meant that. Did I say that? Oh, sorry, I meant that. And by that, you're losing your self-activation, which is spontaneity, your free, spontaneous expression of your real self. Quote, the last 2 sessions, you seemed to focus on yourself, which led to feelings of loss of your father. It seems now you feel a need to focus on me as a way of soothing those painful feelings. Okay, so he lost his father, he felt pain, doesn't want to feel the pain, to soothe away the pain, to push away the pain, to assuage the pain. He focuses outwardly. And when you focus outwardly, you do that because it's too painful to focus inwardly. So typically it's so painful for you to focus on yourself. So what you do to soothe yourself is focus on me or focus on something else, right? So if there's a painful event, you don't want to focus with them, so you focus outwardly. Eat the cookie. Oh, so you focus on the cookies. Okay, and one of the case studies was a guy named Mr. L. Should I do this? Hold on. Should I run through all this? Son of a gun now. Oh man, yeah, I in 3165 I posted a portion of he's got a very lengthy case report on Mr. L. So he had a romantic fantasy of finding a perfect woman, but it turned out that was code for he cannot grieve the loss of his parents. And this perfect woman was somehow the link to the parents. Let's see. So the client, Mr. L, said, I wanted to find a woman just like my dad. So he was looking for his father in a way, right? So he wanted to find a woman who would remind him of his father. That happens. If the firstborn is a boy, he will look. Chances are he'll look for a woman that reminds him of the father to connect with the father, because he's identified with the mother, and he's going to continue the imprint of him playing the role of the mother, and his wife will be the father. So they're going to recreate the imprint, the couple imprint. He plays the mother's side, finds a woman to play the father's side, and they reestablish the imprint of the couple imprint, the couple template. So the child has a memory of mother and father. He'll play the mother and find a woman to play the father. So for more on this point, Anne Teachworth's book called Why We Pick the Mates We Do, something like that. So in this case, doesn't have to be, but there's a 50-50 chance overall that the man will look for a woman who reminds him of the mother. So he's one example of it. I'm attracted to women who remind me of my father. I wanted a woman like my father, who would give back what I lost with my father, because he's playing what the mother wanted to get her needs met with the father. She's playing the mother. Okay, unquote. I said that if this were true, it was related more to his difficulty of letting go of his father than to a difficulty with women. Yeah, so it's not about women. It's about you can't let go of your parents. You can't mourn and forgive the loss of your parents. Cool. He said, well, I never ran across the one I was looking for, unquote. I suggested that the reason for this may have been to keep the fantasy alive. He can't let go of the father. He can't let go of the home. He's still at home. psychologically he's still in the childhood time. He hasn't left his mother's house, his father's house. He's still there. He doesn't have his house. He's in the childhood house. He's going to play the mother and find the woman to play the father. He hasn't let go of that. So it's not about the practicality of looking for women. It's about he can't let go of the unhappy childhood. He can't mourn having been improperly loved or something. He can't mourn that. He hasn't done that yet. He did not want a real woman who would inevitably interfere with the fantasy. Yeah, so he's fixated on finding a woman who reminds him of the father. And it was a dysfunctional family, so it's got to be a dysfunctional woman. A healthy one doesn't work. There's no dopamine. The dopamine says chase for someone that reminds you of one of your parents, because you're fixated there. You've got unfinished business, unresolved issue, pain. Want to get the proper outcome, want to get the parental love and all that. So your dopamine is for an image of that. Your dopamine's not going to flare, but somebody does remind you of the mother. So for more, the last video we covered some good quotes on romantic love, infatuation, obsessive love, limerence, called limerence. There's some good stuff in that last video, I thought. Quote, when I think about marrying my current girlfriend, I feel I have to give up the fantasy, and it tears me up. Unquote. I pointed out that a real woman with real flaws frustrated this fantasy, and that unattainability seemed to be a condition of the fantasy. Right. Unattainability. No woman is going to be his father in the past, but he's looking for this setup. If the father was emotionally not around, emotionally unavailable, he's got to find a woman like that. Oh, sorry, this is a man, right? If the man had a father that was cold or aloof or something, he'll only look for a woman who's cold and aloof. So unavailability is the condition of his fantasy. If the woman's available and kind and warm, no dopamine, no chase. You're only going to chase for a copy of your parent to pick up that battle kind of thing. Announcing that he had asked his girlfriend to marry him and that she had agreed. Quote, he said, "Am I giving up a dream?" Shrink said, "Were you giving up a real dream or a protective, defensive fantasy?" So this fantasy of the woman who reminds us of the mother is a fantasy of the father, because he wants to play the mother, and when he needs a wife to play the father, this is all fantasy stuff. So it's not a real dream in a healthy sense, right? So there's a difference between a real dream and a protective, defensive fantasy. That's back to Perseus. You got to discern: is it something like a real from the real self, or is it from the defensive false self? Okay, later on he talked about a dream that he had. I interpreted this dream of his as his wish to merge with his mother and to repair the loss of his father. Wow, eh? So he's really stuck. He's really. So when you talk about this, you start getting dreams. So I don't remember what the dream was. I didn't read the actual dream. I just read his comment. I interpreted this dream as his wish to merge with his mother to repair the loss of the father. Okay, next. I interpreted that if he activated himself and didn't merge with his mother in this other follow-up dream, that he would die. So this is not when in relationships, if you don't get what, see, in the codependence, you feel like a lonely child, a motherless child, but you're still a child. You're not going to die. You feel lonely, like a lonely, isolated child. Okay, it's painful, but you don't think about the more extreme stuff, that it's the end or something like that, right? But in narcissism, they do have the more extreme stuff. Faced with the issue of activating himself, he sees death, and then he protects himself by seeking immediate pleasure or following shoulds rather than wants. That's the closet one, right? That's the closet one. Quote, could your mother have promoted a special relationship that felt good, except when you were angry or said no to her, or she said no to you, thus frustrating the relationship? Hi, this is again. I was a little manic myself. I rushed it. I did it. I'm doing a rush. I'm really doing this now. I wanted to cram in this. Hang on a sec. There might be a few typos here. Could your mother have promoted a special relationship that felt okay? So the counselor was saying to the client, is it possible that your mother promoted a special relationship with you and it felt good? So that's when the mother is too intimate with the son. That she's treating him like a boyfriend almost. Partnerifying the son. A lot of mothers partnerify their sons, treat them like equals like that, like they're friends or something, you know. Or parentify, or gets the son to take care of her, called partner or parentify the son. Too special. When the son is a mother to the mother, or when the son is a boyfriend to the mother, that kind of stuff, like psychologically, not physically. Could your mother have promoted a special relationship that felt good, except when you were angry, or said no to her, or she said no to you, thus frustrating the relationship? Yeah, so if there's any kind of interruption to this special relationship, oh, she turned into an ice queen or something, or she punished you, she turned into ice. So if the boy is supposed to take care of the mother and he doesn't do what she wants, she punishes him by becoming an ice queen, let's say. Continues here. You learned to play the game with women and have always played it well. So this made him very attuned and sensitive to women. The mama's boy is very attuned and sensitive with women. Like, so the Don Juans and the Peer Gynts, they know the intuition, they pick up things like that. And women are sucked in, they get fooled for that, right? And it works the other way around too, of course. Okay, I interpreted that it was dangerous to be himself, to self-activate. That the emphasis he placed on self-activation in the sessions might actually be a kind of game similar to that he played with his mother. So even in the therapy room, the game he played with the mother, he would do it with the therapist in order to please me rather than express himself to deal with his feeling that if he does focus on himself, there will be nobody there to respond. He had to take care of himself and there was no one else. So the boy, being a mama's boy, he's alone. He's a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Even though you had a possessive, demanding, clinging mother, you felt like a motherless child. What's the next one here? The testing and trial period, essential to the establishment of a real relationship, evokes such enormous separation anxiety that with these clients, that in order to relieve that anxiety, they abort the testing process and jump prematurely into a relationship. It's a common experience to start treatment. Oh, this is a borderline. Oh, hang on. No, we jumped to the borderline. Okay, here's one about the borderline. The testing, so impulsive, dramatic soap opera. Okay, they have quick, impulsive relationships, highs and ups and downs, like ecstasy, despair. This is about the borderline. Okay, let's turn the page for a minute here. The testing and trial period essential to the establishment of a real relationship evokes such enormous separation anxiety with these clients that in order to relieve that anxiety, you know what's going on in my mind now as I'm reading this? Come on, Marcus, why don't you put this in better order here? Why don't you prepare this? Son of a gun. I might even redo this video, I'll tell you the truth. What do we just spend? What is the hour already? I could start over, right? Let's see what time is it? 3:30. Oh, Jesus. Okay, let's just keep going now. Okay, so here's the one about the BPD, right? Okay, the testing and trial. So BPD, they're impulsive with their relationships. Like they want everything or nothing. So they might get married because they're afraid that's the only way to get the person. So they're afraid the other person won't be interested in them. So let's quickly get married to catch them or something. They have this kind of a limerence, or this kind of a... The testing and trial period necessary to the establishment of a real relationship, which most people do, right? They go on, they date for a couple of years or whatever. They date for a year at least or something, 2 years maybe. So this dating phase, that's going through all these little quirks and figuring things out, right? Are they fit? Is it real, or is this fantasy? The testing and trial period essential to the establishment of a real relationship evokes such enormous anxiety with BPD clients that in order to relieve that anxiety, they abort the testing process and jump prematurely into a relationship. It is a common experience to start treatment with a borderline client who is not in a relationship, and shortly thereafter the new client meets and suddenly they have a partner all of a sudden, like instantly. So the BPD client starts therapy. A week later, they go to the bar and find a partner and they start living together, like an impulsive flash thing. The function of this particular kind of intimacy is a defense against the anxiety evoked by the therapy relationship. The client then titrates one relationship against the other. So BPD, they're always having several people on the go to titrate things because there's too much anxiety there. Jump to this one, anxiety there, jump to that one, anxiety there, anxiety there. So they start therapy, a little anxiety, oh, jump into a relationship. Marriage or the relationship established to avoid individuation. Yeah. This commonly occurs when individuals pass through nodal stages in the life cycle that require more individuation. Okay, so typically leaving school, right? Leaving college or leaving high school. It is at this point when they will have to function on their own that they reach out for a partner to defend against the anxiety that having to function on their own evokes. So typically you graduate, you go on your own. You go on your own, right? Learn about yourself, learn how to be alone with yourself, and then you might get married. So I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that. Just jump and get married quickly. Before you graduate, we gotta get married. So you avoid this individuation phase. So you don't individuate, right? So it's recommended for people to spend time on their own as a single person. It's confusing maybe, but at least they're gonna figure it out. Some do, some don't, I guess. I'm not sure. So in other words, some people marry right out of school because they don't want to be alone. That's what he means, right? All right. The question often arises when a couple fights so much, why do they stay together? Well, they stay together because they fight so much, i.e., it is preferable to have an external negative object on which to project the internal negative object rather than have to contain and feel the negative feelings associated with one's internal object. Okay, so if your mother hurt you, you have an internal negative object and she's criticizing you. Well, find somebody to project that onto, see the negative critical mother onto someone else and fight with them. You externalize it and you're in battle with the thing that's within. It's easy to do it that way. And that's why you're always dependent on fighting all the time, because you want to maintain the constant avoidance of your internal critic. Find a partner and fight with them so you don't face the inner fight. So, as above, so below. You find someone on the outside to play the bad you or the bad mother, If you're gonna project the bad mother onto others, you're gonna fight with that, right? If you project the bad you onto others, then you criticize them. So you either want someone you're gonna bicker with, or someone you want to put you criticize all the time. So you're gonna be critical because you don't want to face your mother criticize you, or you'll play yourself and fight with your mother by finding someone to play the mother and battle with them because you're battling with the inner critic like that. So that's why they fight all the time, to keep it externalized, to not look within. The relationship suffers, but the client maintains more intrapsychic comfort. So it's comfortable like that. It's inwardly comfortable like that. There seems to be a relationship between the degree of negativity of the internal object and the need for an external object on which to project. Okay, so the more abusive the mother was, psychologically abusive, passive-aggressively abusive, neglectful, etc., the more you need someone on the outside to project that onto whom you're going to fight with. The more negative the internal object, the greater is the need to pick an external negative one, or make someone be a negative mother, coax them to play the role. Come on, be my bad mother so I can fight with you. Come on, I chose you so I can prod you and goad you and make you be a annoying person so I can fight with you. I gotta see you as the bad mother so you don't face the bad mother within. So you find someone who's already critical, or make them critical, so you don't never face it. So you're always projecting like that. It's called externalization or projection. The need to reenact distorted, internalized object relationships takes precedence and erodes the capacity to have a mutually satisfying, companionate relationship, intimate relationship. Let's do the next one. That was 65. One second. Thank God they're open. They're still open between the lunch and dinner times. Well, yeah, some places are open like all day. Okay, back to the Venus flytrap one. The narcissist's ability to appear charming and sensitive to others acts like a Venus flytrap for the unsuspecting lover, who can often be at a loss as to how to extricate herself or himself from the tangle of rage and blame that results from narcissistic disappointment. So if you're charmed in, they're gonna treat you badly eventually, right? They'll charm you, and then you'll see the narcissistic rage every time you can't read their mind and mirror them and feed them all the time. They'll be enraged at you, and now you're in this tangle of their hate and criticism, right? The more reinforcement that life provides the narcissist in terms of success, money, prestige, or power, the more the narcissistic personality feels entitled to a mate who will provide the same. This may be one of intimacy. This may be one of intimacy. Oh, this may be one of the reasons why the divorce rate is exceptionally high among people with wealth and power. They grow so accustomed to getting what they want from others in life that they expect the same in their close relationships. Yeah, so if you're wealthy, you snap your fingers, you get everything what you want. You're like a magical baby. What you want, there it is. You have a girlfriend Or she's a human being, she's not, but you expect the thing that you're used to. So you go fight like, so a very high divorce rate in the wealthy area, right? Where are we here? They grow so accustomed to getting what they want from others in life that they expect the same in those close relationships. The most common arrangement, okay, stinger and clinger, okay. The most common relation, so here's another one. Oh, so we have a thread on stinger and a clinger, so here's another one. The most common arrangement is the narcissistic husband who's clinging, borderline, like codependent wife, idealizes him and uses his sense of superiority to shore up her own inadequate self. So this could be both. The woman or the partner could be a closet narcissist or a codependent, because she's afraid to be on her own as well. She is usually very compliant, subservient, and eager to give him what he wants. Okay, this is the closet one, I think, right? Okay, in this case, the woman is usually compliant, subservient, and eager to give him what he wants, but she always fails to meet his standards. Okay, so he's never satisfied her, or the other way around. She's never satisfied. Nothing I do ever satisfies him. Then her husband turns on her, attacks her for her problems, her inadequacies, and in so doing reinforces her negative feelings about herself. It is often only in treatment that she realizes how little she's getting out of the relationship. So let's say the man is an exhibitionistic narcissist and she's a closet narcissist. That'll be stabilized, I think. That last comment seems to be that she's a codependent pleaser type. Those are the ones that break free when they realize, right? Okay, now let's back up a sec here. So let's okay, now let's go to the book, Emerging Self book here. The personality disorders of the self. So he calls personality disorders or character disorders disorders of the self. Okay. The personality disorders are disorders of the self whose primary psychodynamic theme is what I have called the disorders of the self triad. Self-activation leads to anxiety and depression, which leads to defense. Sometimes he says abandonment depression, sometimes he says massive anxiety, sometimes he says anxiety and depression. You know, it's all the same. This idea began with the study of the borderline person, of the BPD one, and was originally called the borderline triad. Further study led to applying it to the personality disorders in general. Although the triadic psychodynamic theme is common to all personality disorders, clients differ in the way in which they experience the abandonment depression and in the way in which they defend against it. So it's all very chameleon, like there's so many forms on the surface, but the underlying structure is the same in the narcissistic place. Either exhibitionist or closet or the devaluing. For example, what differentiates the closet narcissist disorder from other personality disorders is its intrapsychic structure. The experiencing of the abandonment depression as the self falling apart, not losing somebody, like the codependent, all right? So the borderline or the codependent, their biggest fear is they're going to be alone, you abandon me, but they're okay. But in the narcissistic place, their biggest fear is they're going to fall apart, they're going to disintegrate, like they're going to disappear, like they think like that. So their nightmares reflect it. So when these clients report their nightmares, the narcissists have nightmares of this, you know, the most horrifying nightmares, right? The codependents, their nightmares are like alone in the wilderness or whatever. Sometimes they feel like a motherless child kind of nightmares, but in these nightmares, it's more like a horror film or something. These ones. So narcissists worry about falling apart, disintegrating, codependence, preoccupied, pleasers, caretaker, which he calls borderline, higher functioning borderline, just losing somebody. And the primary defense of idolizing the omnipotent object to regulate the esteem of the grandiose self and defend against abandonment depression. Throughout my book, throughout this volume, the term disorder of the self will be used for personality disorder. Okay, the clinical picture is chameleon, yeah. So on the surface, you have surface examples. It's a wide variety of manifestations of the closet narcissistic. The closet narcissistic disorder of the self has a consistent underlying intrapsychic structure and an equally consistent defensive theme, i.e., idealization or devaluation of the other to regulate your own grandiose sense of self. The principal emotional investment is in the object. That's the closet one. The other one's the great. You're nothing, but the other one's great, and you bask in their greatness. But in the exhibitionistic one, it's flipped. You're nothing, and I'm the great one. Right. The principal emotional investment is in the other, not the self. Despite this, the clinical picture, like a chameleon, can take on the colors of other disorders. There are a number of symptomatic themes that reflect the client's complaints rather than the aspects of the problem that the client denies. For example, grandiosity, sense of entitlement, lack of empathy, and so on, right? Okay, so the psychic structure of the exhibitionistic narcissist and the closet narcissist are identical, but where is the energy? In the self or the other? Okay, the impaired self can be consciously experienced as bad, inadequate, ugly, incompetent, shameful, weak, etc., or falling apart. The prominent complaint is difficulties with intimacy or close relationship. A real healthy close relationship would interrupt the client's narcissistic defenses and expose the client to their impaired self and abandonment depression. So the client must form relationships based on narcissistic defense. Okay, so their relationships are based on narcissistic defense. The permutations and combinations of these relationships are endless. The complaint can vary. For the narcissist with the detachment defense from having no or few relationships to a lack of responsiveness on the part of the partner, failure to mirror perfectly, to being attracted to people who are not in reality available. For example, having an affair with a married person or with someone who lives far away or travels a lot, with the distance providing the necessary defensive protection. Yeah, he had an example of a woman who would only date men if they lived in another place. So Masterson jokingly made a joke with her. It seems to me the criteria for a man to hop into your bed is they got to come here by plane. He did it on occasion. I'll have like a joke like interpretation. It seems to me, clarify something for me, it seems to me that in order for a man to qualify for your bed, he's got to come by plane. Is that right? and that shook her up, and she said she found a local guy, right? So that's the one about the distancing. If he's far away, you feel safe. It's distancing. Providing the necessary defensive protection. A seemingly inconsistent picture appears with persons with devaluing narcissistic disorders who seem to be devoted either to partners whom they consistently attack or devalue, or to partners who attack and devalue them. They undergo recurrent experiences of instantly falling in love based on sexual attraction and then being disappointed and falling out of love as the relationship matures. Also, attracted by the others' money, power, beauty, or sexual appearance, i.e. narcissistic supplies. So if the partner is good looking, or has power and money, beauty, or sex appeal somehow, these are considered narcissistic supplies. They may evince a genuine feeling for the person that quickly leads to disappointment when the quality that attracted them disappears. So narcissists will marry someone in terms of narcissism. Okay, hang on, okay, before I go to the book, let's do 67 here, hang on. I'm still in the process of learning this myself here, all right. Okay, 67 is a continuation of 66 here, okay, hang on. Okay, so if the other person doesn't meet the narcissistic supply, they get enraged, we know about that. Oh, commonly there'll be problems in the bedroom because there can't be warmth. There can only be physical, right? Problems with sexual functioning arise that derive not from a specific sexual conflict, but from the need to defend against the anxiety and depression produced by the emotional pressure for intimacy that occurs in a sexual relationship. So love and sex are together, right? But he says, wait a minute, what love come up? Then I don't want the sex. If there's sex with no love, fine. But if there's love, forget it. So they can't bring it together, they can't bridge it together, right? Because love is the self-activation. A self is there. I don't want myself. Bring on myself, anxiety. So they shut down, whatever. So but if the other person's thingified, there's no emotional connection, then fine, they're active like that. That's the famous split, right? The guy's married, but he has a mistress, or the woman's married and has a lover on the side, or whatever it is. One can be sexually competent with a partner with whom one is not involved. That's the key thing, right? Yeah, so the woman with the airplane, she's not really involved, right? So she has an affair with him, he flies away. Oh, we're not involved, you're so far away. Okay, but when one is involved, one has to detach affect to function sexually. One can be sexually competent with a partner with whom one is not involved. Okay, I don't like using the phrase, but pop culture uses the Madonna, let's just say wife, mistress, split, whatever. One can be sexually competent with a partner with whom one is not involved. But when one is involved, one has to detach affect, love, feeling, right, to function sexually. The difficulties with real self-activation also vary widely. From the client's not knowing what he wants to do. Okay, so they don't know what their interests are, or what that's part of it, right? Or they do, but they start and they give up easily, they can't follow through. Or the client is able to activate only through a relationship with an idealized other. But if he or she becomes separated from the idealized other, the ability to activate deteriorates. Okay, so if there is somebody there, maybe they'll activate, but if they're gone, well, they can't do it on their own. The difficulty with self-activation also causes clients to take jobs in which they function quite successfully, but where they feel no sense of meaning or satisfaction. For example, the lawyer who wants to be an artist. Yeah, David Cassidy said, I didn't want to be a bubblegum teen idol, pop idol. I wanted to be a rock star. Yesterday we played, I said that already. Yesterday we played David Cassidy's song, Lying to Myself. I just discovered them recently, and I've been playing a couple of their songs. Okay, or they may initiate a career based on their latent talent and being able to identify what they want, but find that success so frustrates their closet defenses, thus bringing them onto center stage, that it exposes them to such severe anxiety that they have to avoid following through in order to relieve the anxiety. So, if it's a closet narcissist and their self-activation involves not being a closet narcissist, it'll lead to anxiety and they might sabotage, all right? Fear of success. Often the need to relieve anxiety can lead to drinking. So I think this is true, a lot of closet narcissists will drink. They'll be drinkers. They might be very OCD perfectionistic, right? Like you might think about you might think about the perfect model secretary. She goes home and drinks maybe or something like that. I don't know. Is that right? No, you can't generalize like that, you know. Workaholism as a defense against intimacy and or the anxiety associated with self-activation is common. So one defense against real self is workaholism, shopaholism, any kind of one of those manic kind of things. The structure of the work partakes of their emotional investment. The structure of the work partakes of their emotional investment. The structure of the work partakes of their emotional investment in the idealized object. Oh, so you idealize your work, is that it? And while they work long hours, they feel an emotional equilibrium, and the loneliness, isolation, and burnout involved are denied. So they don't realize they're burning out, feeling lonely and isolated. They don't realize it. They deny it, right? This difficulty with real self-activation can extend to difficulties in taking good care of personal needs, such as diet, weight control, exercise, rest, proper grooming. On the other hand, some clients spend inordinate time taking care of themselves. There can be problems with affect regulation. You know, I was thinking maybe that Shirley woman, the mother who in the Partridge Family, Keith's mother, in real life his stepmother, right? She was like a real perfectionist, prim and proper perfectionist, right? Yes, she's on stage pretending to sing with the others and all that, with Keith. But in her personal dealings with people, she was a real perfectionist, right? She can get enraged like that. If her perfectionism is kind of in question or something, she can get really had a hot temper, right? So she would have these outbursts, right? There can be problems with affect regulation, with either detachment or too little affect or too much affect and outbursts of narcissistic rage. So you take the prim and proper narcissistic type, and then they got this outburst of narcissistic rage if something doesn't go their way, right? Unlike with the exhibitionistic narcissism, there is a constant repetitive experience of the disorders of the self-triad. Self-activation leads to anxiety and depression, which lead to defense. Under separation stress, the depression is full-blown. Okay, so unlike the narcissist, so the exhibitionistic, you don't see their depression too much. You don't see any kind of anxiety around the real self. They don't bother with the real self. They only have the narcissistic structure. They don't have the real self. They don't bother with the real self, so they never self-activate. People with narcissism never, or nearly never, or don't want to ever self-activate. They spend their whole lives with power, prestige, money, defense, admiration, entitlement, like that. They never touch the underlying covert depression, right? Hidden depression. But the closet one, yes, the closet one does. So unlike the exhibitionistic narcissism, there is a constant repetitive experience of the triad. Okay, self-activation leads to abandonment depression, which lead to defense. But the exhibitionistic narcissist never self-activate, so there's no issue of the abandonment depression. Under separation stress, the depression is full-blown. Yeah, so when the closet narcissistic is triggered, they feel the full-blown depression. Okay, otherwise, the depression is better defended against and of a lower grade. There may be a host of neurotic symptoms. Somatic complaints are common as the client experiences the impaired self as the body falling apart. Oh yeah, so the closet narcissist, if they're feeling this, they might say, my body's falling apart. So that's the shame self, right? The impaired real self. In some clients, acting out symptoms arise. Promiscuity, alcoholism, etc. In others, the symptomatic picture can be that of an eating disorder. Okay, bulimia, anorexia, nervosa, etc. For the adult client, there may also be a current, ongoing, enmeshed relationship with the mother or father. Yeah, that was the issue with Mr. L there. He was fused with his father or something like that. Or with the mother, I forgot. So a lot of this problem is that there's still in the mind the two overlapping circles of fusion. With the client feeling caught up in the role of psychological caretaker. So you're still feeling that psychologically you got to save the parent, cure the parent, psychological caretaker. You feel guilty to self-activate because you're disloyal to your mother. You got to psychologically take care of her. One of life's little switches. The mother should have psychologically taken care of the child. No, the mother said, no, child, you psychologically take care of me. You emotionally take care of me. You meet my needs. I don't meet your needs. You meet my needs. If that's in the memory system, that leads to narcissism. Either the overt or the covert. Separation stresses commonly precipitate the clinical syndrome. Separation from the idealized or devalued object and or loss of narcissistic supplies. Where are we here? Okay, so here, okay, this next part, okay, also the context is needed. I just took a few little snippets, but they're kind of out of context here. But these are some. This is part of the chameleon-like clinical picture. After 10 years, I realized I had no self, nor did I have any intimacy with my husband. I started to drink. And as I had a low tolerance for alcohol, I became an alcoholic and then started having blackouts. I drank for 3 years, joined AA, and started an affair with a woman. Poor lady. Huh? So that's one example of closet narcissism, right? So one example of closet narcissism. Okay, she became alcoholic and I had an affair with a woman. So that's the clinical, that's how varied this thing is. Another example, he denied his depression. But he complained about his somatic problems. So if he's always talking about his aches and his moans and like backache and shoulder ache, he denied depression, but the affect was probably absorbed by his somatic preoccupations. So if he's obsessed with bodily issues, bodily pain. Oh, someone's coming. Oh, yeah, is that right? Yeah. Oh, he's just doing this. He denied depression, but the affect was probably absorbed by his somatic preoccupations. Okay, so that's one variation of the chameleon-like picture. Okay, next one. This client's impaired real self was so fragile. Oh, he's going to take it all out. Why don't I get out of his way here? Hold on a second. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, where are we? The chameleon side of things here. He means when the clients come and all, they're all so different, but the underlying thing might be the same. So one guy moaning about his somatic complaints. One woman is a drinker and goes to the other continent. How does it go again? Bats for the other team or something. I don't know. So that woman is looking for mothering, right? That woman is looking for mothering, right? We're over here. Oh boy. Come on, phone, stay put. Hang on a second. Let's reset this here. Come on, jeez. I'm still getting used to this new phone here. The client's impaired real self was so fragile that his defense of performing for the idealized object to regulate his grandiose self was not sufficient, and thus he also required detachment of affect from the object and workaholism, and possibly alcoholism, to deal with the profound abandonment depression. It was the failure of this entire defensive system to manage his depression and isolation that brought him to therapy. Okay, so this fourth one is about all of his defenses. Okay, devaluing others, admiring others, drinking. Like nothing worked, so he came to therapy, all right? All right. Quote, I'm hanging on to a bad marriage because I'm afraid of being abandoned. I have been in codependency self-help groups for years, etc. Unquote. The difficulty with the sense of self, the dependence on attacking, suggests that his defenses go beyond the usual focus on the object to an internalization of the aggressor defense that requires an external aggressor to reinforce it. This defense suggests the possibility that the parental negative attitudes may have included corporal punishment or something. He was hit or something. So if they're really devaluing others like that, that's a form of it, right? The devaluing one. The diversity, in other words, the diversity of the clinical picture seemed to defy organization. But the advantage of the developmental self and object relations perspective is that it sifts through this clinical diversity to reaching the underlying, enduring, unchanging psychic structure. Okay, now let's bring up the book. All right. Okay, so what I just read was a bit of this, chapter 1. So what I went through is a portion of chapter 1 here. Now let me skip down to chapter 2 here. So what I just read was taken from chapter 1 of The Emerging Self. And he gives some examples here of the people. Now this is not a TQ quote, but let me just build up to, what does this say again? The term narcissism has become so associated. Hey, why don't I let the phone read it out? Maybe it'll do. Maybe it'll. I think the play, the readout isn't the greatest, but let's read out some of this. Hang on a second.
The term narcissism has become so associated with disorder that it is important to differentiate between healthy narcissism, which is essential to life, and pathological narcissism. Healthy narcissism, or the real self, is experienced as a sense of self that feels adequate and competent, a feeling derived mostly from reality, with some input from fantasy. This sense of self includes appropriate concern for others, and its self-esteem is maintained by the use of self-assertion to master challenges and tasks presented by reality. The intrapsychic structure, which underlies this sense of self, consists of a self-representation that has separated from the object representation, has had its infantile grandiosity and omnipotence diffused, and is whole, that is, it contains both positive and negative at the same time, and is able to function autonomously. The pathologic narcissism of the exhibitionistic narcissistic disorder or the inflated false defensive self is experienced as being unique, special, adored, and admired. It is called a false defensive self because 1. It is based on fantasy, and 2. Its purpose is to defend against pathologic affect, not to deal with reality. The intrapsychic structure consists of a grandiose self representation fused with an omnipotent object representation with the major emotional invest 12. A developmental self and object relations theory. 13. Meant in the grandiose self, whose grandiosity is maintained by seeking perfection and the perfect mirroring of others. The pathologic narcissism of the closet narcissistic disorder or the deflated false defensive self is experienced as feeling special or unique in the glow of the omnipotent perfect other. The intrapsychic structure consists of the same grandiose self fused with the omnipotent object representation, except that the major investment is in the omnipotent object representation that is idealized and projected on others, the grandiose self basking in the glow of the idealized object. Whether the narcissism is pathologic or healthy turns upon the quality of the sense of self-feeling in its relationship to the external object. To illustrate, if you are reading this book to glean information that will make you a better therapist and enable you to help your patients more, and you acknowledge me as the source of this information, then that is healthy narcissism. On the other hand, if you are reading the book in order to gain some knowledge that will make you feel unique and special, and you cannot acknowledge my contribution as the source of the feeling, then that is the narcissism of the exhibitionistic disorder. Finally, if you are reading this book because you have idealized me and are basking in the glow of that idealization as you read, that is the narcissism of the closet narcissistic disorder. On the other hand, to turn this around, if I wrote the book in order to teach what I have learned so that it can be used by others, and I acknowledge the importance of students to the process, that is healthy narcissism. If I wrote the book in order to exhibit my special, unique, grandiose self for perfect mirroring and do not acknowledge the student, that is exhibitionistic narcissism. Finally, if I view the audience as idealized and the source of my self-esteem, and wrote the book to gain admiration and thereby reinforce my grandiosity, that is closet narcissism. It is also important to keep in mind that a patient can have narcissistic traits without necessarily having a narcissistic disorder. In other words, the patient may have an excessive interest in appearance, power, money, beauty, or the like that is an isolated narcissistic trait that does not result in the creation of the intrapsychic fused. 14. The emerging self-omnipotent object, grandiose self, representation of the narcissistic disorder of the self. A developmental self and object relations theory. Developmental self and object relations theory provides some insight into the level of the developmental arrest, the resultant intrapsychic structure, and, finally, the clinical picture of the narcissistic personality disorder. It informs us as to how to evaluate the clinical data and what to do about the data. Level of developmental arrest. It is a tenet of object relations theory that ego defense mecha NISMS and ego functions mature in parallel with the maturation of self and object representations. A controversy has arisen over how to explain that the narcissistic personality disorder seems to violate this tenet in that a very primitive self-object representation is seen alongside a seemingly high capacity for ego functioning. To put it in developmental terms, although the self-object representation is fused, the narcissistic personality disorder seems to receive the benefit for ego development that is believed to come about only as a result of separation from that fusion. There as yet has been no satisfactory resolution of this dilemma, either by myself or by other authors.
Now, at this point there,
a perspective on the issue can be gained by noting
that point there, So the alcoholic, somebody said, is an infantile God and a helpless baby. If he's a helpless baby, how is it that he has... hang on. So he's saying, if the arrested development is still so early on in the nursery, how is it that they can get 10 PhDs, 10 medals, 10 awards, so they can develop cognitively, physically, chronologically, bodily, and every other way? They can have 10 PhDs, but emotionally, they might treat their wife like a servant. Like, what the hell? You got 10 PhDs and you can't relate in a mutual, person-to-person, normal, companionate way? You have to devalue the partner because that's you and you're the mother, but you got 10 PhDs in something? So why is there a split like that? So nobody has a clear answer how a person can cognitively develop and physically develop, but emotionally still be psychologically, emotionally, in terms of your needs, in terms of your identity, in terms of your psychic structure, still be one with the mother. How can you be tied to mother's apron strings and get 10 PhDs? Nobody understands this split like that. So the jargon is the split ego, right? So the ego splits for your cognitive development, but the ego related to your unconscious. Then you got the battle of the egos, so to speak. But the puppet master is way more stronger. Where Inslee thinks simply, it's very simple. It's very simple. The mother says to the child, all right, child, I will support your schooling and your homework on the condition you never leave me, okay? You're psychologically one with me. You can even marry someone, but I'm number one. Get it? I'm your special relationship. I'm your one and only. We're one, we're symbiotic, we're merged. So you can do other things, and I'll support it. You can be a star, but I'm your true love, your number one love. You never leave me, okay? You never leave me. And it seems to be that can happen, that the child can get 10 PhDs on the condition, knowing that the condition of that, the ability for that, is that he's tied to the mother. Something like that. Rinsley raised that point. Masterson says he also doesn't know, right? Okay, let's just leave it there. Let's go to the graph here. This is a very simple illustration. Let's see. Okay, so this is Masterson's take on the psychic structure. Very simple. I'll stay put with you. Okay, is that gonna work? No? Oh, jeez. Things keep rotating on me. Hang on a sec. If I do it like this, okay, I guess I gotta do it like this. Does that work? Okay, I gotta turn the phone, all right. Okay, is this showing up here? This looks like a simple, very simple diagram. But you see the line in the middle called splitting, right? So you have two pairs of overlapping circles, right? So on the left side here, you have the special you, you're a king and a god, all babies think they're special, kings and gods, that's called the grandiose self, the grandiose part self, right? So you take refuge in there, you're clinging to there, that's your identity. You gotta have the grandiose self, and you gotta think your mother's omnipotent. You gotta believe, it's a lie, you're not a king and a god, and your mother's not a goddess, but you gotta have that kind of babyhood mentality where the baby thinks the king and a god, and mother's a goddess, and the mother's really you, and you're a god, mother's a god, you're two gods kind of thing. So that's the one unit, and it's fused. The self and the object are fused. The self is grandiose, special and all that, and the mother's omnipotent, or it's basically the same thing. And the object is you, okay, and you're special. Now in the exhibitionistic one, okay, the energy, the child's energy is this one, the self one, and the other is just the breast that should serve them. Maybe I can enlarge it or something. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can enlarge this or something. Well, now it stays like that. Oh, this is already on the side in the book, right? Oh, okay. No? Oh, Jesus. Okay, this is the left side, right? Okay, this is the left side. Okay, so in the exhibitionistic narcissist, okay, the ones who overtly brag and boast in the center stage and don't care about you, you know their slogans, right? Not looking up for number one, my greed, your greed. It's a survival mentality. They're a king and a god. Who cares about you? You're a thing, so serve me. I'm special. I'm entitled. I have no feeling for you, no empathy for you. I don't care about your thing. You just serve me. So this is the baby with the breast. Okay, so the focus is on the self. So in the narcissistic one, the focus is on the lower circle, and others are just the symbolic breast. Okay. Now, if that's interrupted for some reason, okay, now the other split, then you get the split. So now underneath it, underneath those overlapping circles, there are another overlapping circles. Underneath that one is this one. So when that's interrupted, when the exhibitionistic narcissistic supply is interrupted, click. Okay, that you are enraged. You feel shame. You're enraged. That's the self side. You feel inadequate, fragmented, unworthy, unrelated. You're going to be abandoned. You're falling apart. Existential crisis. And the mother's a cruel, attacking, vicious, cruel, harsh, like that, right? So now you're enraged at now seeing the other person who didn't meet your narcissistic supply. You think they're so bad, and you're enraged at them, right? So think about a narcissist expected the partner to read his mind and meet his needs. It didn't happen. He attacks her. You're a cruel, cold, withdrawing. I hate you, and then all the rage, right? So in any case, the bottom. I gotta get this printed out. Hang on a second. Where are we here? I guess I gotta do it like this then, right? Something's wrong with my rotating thing. Is it enlarged? Oh, can I get it enlarged? Okay, so this is underneath this. Imagine two nickels piled upon each other, like piled up. It's not like crossed like that. It's just, he can't show it in a diagram. Imagine the two circles like over each other, like piled up on each other. So imagine the circles are piled on each other, right? So it looks like one circle there, right? And you got these two as one circle. And then you got the split. So put it this way, imagine a coin with two layers, like upper lower, right? Imagine a coin with an upper lower, and then another coin with an upper and a lower. Okay, and the coins, there's a space between the two coins. Now you're normally operating from this one, but when something interrupts it, click, you go to here. It splits, right? So that's why he feels like a king and a god. 1 second, he feels like a bug the next second. 1 minute, you're useful, now you're worthless. So the idealized are useful or devalued. And it seems to be exaggerated. It's a kind of a more extreme with the narcissist. There's no understanding about them or trying to figure them out or something. Is a little more like that. Now, with the closet in the closet version, he's saying, okay, the energy, you don't feel this for yourself. You give your entitlement, grandiose self to the other person. And you bask vicariously in the glow of the shine of the narcissistic godlike glory of the other person, and you bask in it, and you're the closet. You're in the closet like that, and you feel special and grandiose, basking in the omnipotence of the grandiose of the other person. That's the closet one. And what they do is they tend to over-idealize these people. They use a lot of superlatives. Oh, he's the most unbelievable. And that gives them their grandiosity if the other's so amazing. If the other's so amazing, you're amazing. You're projecting your need to believe you're a king and a god on others and say they're king and a god, so you can feel like you're a king and a god. You deny that you feel like a king and a god by saying you're projecting your feeling that you're grandiose by saying the other one's so grandiose. Now, if this is interrupted, then likewise, you feel this here. You feel this here. You feel like a bug, and the other is worthless. And then the emotion, of course, is the panic, the abandonment, depression, the rage, and all that. Now, usually speaking, he says the closet does access this. The exhibitionistic one maintains it only on this side. They almost never go here. Now, typically speaking, this side here is experienced by the codependents and the pleasers because they're trying to develop in life and they feel abandoned and all that. So they feel abandonment depression. But the abandonment depression of the pleasers is relatable with others. This one, there's no relationship with others. So they drink. So there may be a lot of alcoholism with the closet narcissist, it seems. The exhibitionistic narcissist, they're addicted to their personality. The Don Juanism, they don't need alcohol or substances or something. Their personality is just one drug. Narcissism is the psychology of narcissism is named after the narcissistic flower, which is a drug-like thing. It gives people delusions and all that, right? So this is the most archaic, earliest map of the mind, that they're fused, symbiotic, merged like that, and then it's split. The idealized and devalued like that, right? Now, in regular development, in the narcissistic place, the presentation on the surface is varied, but the underneath is like that. So you got the overt one, which never feels depressed, so you never see them, right? It's the closet narcissists that often go to therapy because they're feeling the abandoned depression that the one they admiring is not there anymore, and they can't focus on themselves. Hence his thing. It's so painful for you to focus on yourself. So what you do to soothe yourself is focus on others. You focus on me, right? So the closet can't focus on himself. All the focus is outwardly like that. And they appear like subservient and what can I do for you like that? And if that's interrupted, then they get depressed, right? But the exhibitionistic one, the show-off one, let's say, they never cry, they never flip it. There's more. I am assuming there's just more trauma, more dopamine, more testosterone, more hormone. There's more stress involved, and there's more of a demand more of a defensive demand to stay manic because you can't feel the depression underneath. There's even the phrase, right? Manic depressive. You even have that kind of phrase, manic depressive. So the exhibitionists, they stay in the manic mode, but the closet narcissists, they may feel that. No, his thing is different. His thing is personality, right? The manic depressive in the books, it's more like a biological flipping or something, right? I mean, like a brain damage, back and forth or something. But the closet narcissism resembles some of this. No, they're not manic, right? No, sorry. The closet narcissists, they're not manic. They bask in the manicness of the other. So they're not manic themselves, they just wallow and enjoy the dopamania of the narcissistic one. Right? So they're vicariously manic and depressive. So you could say it that way. So there's a new thing, right? So you got the manic depressive, but the closet narcissist might have vicarious dopamania and depressive. The defensive or grandiose self, omnipotent object relations fused unit forms an alliance with the pathologic ego to defend against the benefit depression of the aggressive fused unit. Okay, so the mind of the left side protects you from the other side, right? But this alliance operates in a manner different from that of the borderline. The benefit depression of the aggressive fused unit can be participated either by efforts at true self-activation, i.e. the pursuit of realistic self-expressive goals as opposed to the narcissistic goals of perfection, adoration, money, power, beauty, and so on, or by the perception of the object's failure to provide perfect mirroring. The perception of the benefit depression activates the alliance between the grandiose fused unit and the pathologic ego, and the client proceeds to avoid, deny, or devalue the offending stimulus or perception, thereby restoring the balance of his or her narcissistic equilibrium, i.e. its defensive libidinal fused part unit. And libidinal means that's where your energy is, and avoiding and experiencing depression. The continuous projection, the continuous overall projection of this defensive unit allows the person with a narcissistic personality disorder to minimize the experience of depression and makes it appear that he or she gets emotional supplies from within. In addition, the relatively free access to aggression enables the narcissist either to aggressively coerce the environment into resonating with the narcissistic projects, or if this fails, to deal with the failure by avoidance, denial, devaluation. Okay, they've got so much aggression, they're going to coerce you to admire them. Or if you don't, who didn't need you anyways? Sour grapes, who cares? Didn't need you anyways. Devaluation. Okay, as illustrated, the intrapsychic structure of the closet narcissistic personality disorder is the same as that of the exhibitionistic. However, the shift in emotional investment, from the grandiose self to the omnipotent object representation results in two key clinical differences in how the defensive structure operates. One, the exhibitionistic one seems impervious to you. They don't care about you. You're nothing to them, right? Whereas the closet one is exquisitely dependent on and vulnerable to the object. What a difference, right? The exhibitionist one couldn't care 2 cents about you, but the closet narcissist one is exquisitely, exquisitely sensitive and dependent on and vulnerable to this other person. What a difference, eh? But there's still the same underlying psychic structure. It's just like an energy thing, life force energy thing. Okay, the person projects the omnipotent object on others and regulates the grandiosity of the self by basking in the glow. Basking in the glow, that's like vicarious living or something. Basking in the glow of the idealized object. The closet narcissist does not have the capacity consistently to maintain the continuity of defense and therefore is prone to experience depression and to present the same clinical sequence as others, i.e. self-activation, which leads to abandonment depression, which leads to defense. When this defensive alliance does not prove adequate, the person projects the underlying attacking object with its associated rage and depression on the external object, feels attacked from without, feels shamed, and either attacks back or withdraws, feeling fragmented, having lost the organization of the sense of self. If I don't focus on the object to regulate myself, I don't know what to do and it's hopeless. The elements of the abandonment depression are the same. Okay, so on the extreme spectrum, on the most extreme end, okay, the rage and the depression, panic, guilt, hopelessness, helplessness, emptiness, void. See, codependents don't feel that stuff. They don't feel that bad, right? They're helpless children, but they don't feel that kind of rage or depression like that. However, these affects are experienced differently by one with the narcissistic disorder. The exhibitionistic tends not to experience depression because of the continuity of the defense. Yeah, so the exhibitionistic defense is pretty stable. So he's a permanent 24/7 hostile, cynical person, right? He's an agent of the hostile mind. I don't know. Leon Saul calls it the hostile mind. The depression in the closet narcissist is marked by feelings of shame and falling apart. Now, the borderline one is more about inadequacy because you're losing the other person. In the narcissistic one, they're colder, it's more unrelated, right? Versus the other one, there's still some kind of relationship and warmth involved. So the codependents are hurt, but they still love you and they still think well about you. Narcissism, it's cold. It's just cold hate like that. So there's a clear clinical difference between the abandonment depression of the narcissist, cold, unfeeling, unrelated, versus the abandonment depression of the codependent. They just feel like children in pain or something. They don't cross over to the other stuff. Okay, now, so think about envy. Envy is way more prominent with the narcissist one, but it's minor with the codependent or borderline. Typically, envy is very pronounced with narcissism. With the other one, the borderline or codependent, it's minor, and there may be jealousy, but you see, narcissists don't have the self-esteem for jealousy. They only have envy. And jealousy is actually a development. They haven't reached the place of jealousy. They only have envy. But the codependents feel jealousy, maybe sometimes there's minor envy. The exhibitionistic feelings of hopelessness and helplessness and emptiness and void are held in check by the defenses, while in the closet disorder, both feeling states are more often consciously experienced. In the closet narcissist one, if the feelings of helplessness and hopelessness are not conscious, they become so in response to the initial interventions. If I don't focus on the object to regulate myself, I don't know what to do and it's hopeless. Okay, the exhibitionistic one. So the main five traits of the exhibitionistic one. Okay, number one, grandiose sense of self, special, important, king and a god. Number two, preoccupations with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, ideal love. Number three, needing constant admiration. Number four, cool indifference or marked feelings of rage, inferiority, shame, humiliation, or emptiness in response to criticism. Narcissists cannot take feedback, let alone criticism. Ooh. That's why that woman, Shirley in the Partridge Family, I think I saw one scene where somebody criticized her a little bit. Ooh, she got enraged like that. Wasn't that bad, right? She couldn't take any kind of hint at being criticized. She was a real prima donna, right, or something. Number five, a sense of entitlement. A sense of entitlement. Interpersonal exploitation of others. They feel entitled, they don't care. Lack of empathy, because they can't feel for themselves and others, and they feel entitled. Sense of entitlement. So those are the core five, right? Of the exhibitionistic one. Now, Masterson doesn't have a list like this for the closet one. I was thinking maybe he might have one like that. Oh, hang on. The closet narcissistic disorder of the self. Oh, hang on. Oh, maybe that's it here. Hang on. The closet narcissistic disorder is not included in the DSM. The self-psychologists call it the idealizing disorder of the self. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. So Mr. Kohut calls it the idealizing disorder of the self. Okay. The three key differences. Okay, here we go. The three key differences between the exhibitionistic one and the closet one are as follows. Number one, the closet narcissist's major emotional investment is in the omnipotent other rather than in the grandiose self. The person projects this object on others. Internal object, yeah, okay. Idealizing them as a way of regulating his or her own sense of grandiosity. So you feel special if you always think the other one's so amazing. Okay, the closet narcissist cannot maintain the constant activation of defense and therefore exhibits the triad of self-activation leading to abandonment depression, which then leads to defense, which is commonly seen in the BPD and the borderline one, the other one. And hence the confusion. Is he borderline or is he a closet narcissist? The closet narcissist may seem to respond to confrontation. However, you see, the BPD, you can confront them. They're stronger. You can say to the BPD, yeah, well, why would you do that? You can be blunt and direct with them, called confrontation, right? The closet, no way. They may seem to comply to please you. However, the fact that there is no change in emotion or improvement in the working alliance reveals that the response is not genuine, but a result of a defensive compliance. To make the diagnosis, one evaluates the same intrapsychic structure as in the exhibitionistic disorder. That is, grandiose self, omnipotent object, defensive fused unit. Those are the two overlapping coins on one side, on the other side, and underneath, the underlying aggressive fused unit. However, the difference in style of defense is most important to identify. The person idealizes the therapist and basks in the therapist's glow. Okay, so if a closet narcissist goes to therapy, he's going to bask in thinking the therapist is a wonderful, special healer or some kind, and bask in that. The exhibitionistic one will go there and cut them down. You're no good, you're a fake, you're a fraud, or you're a con man, cheating me, take my money, and so on and so on. Okay, and here's a third one here. So we got the exhibitionistic narcissist, the closet narcissist, and sometimes there's one called the if the person devalues you constantly, not just when he doesn't get a supply. So most clients with the narcissistic disorder of the self will be found in the foregoing categories. That is, most use the defensive grandiose self or omnipotent object to defend. However, a smaller group of clients defend in the opposite manner by continually projecting the underlying aggressive fused unit. They project the impaired self on the therapist and act out the role of the harsh attacking object by devaluing the therapist. Or they project the harsh object on the therapist and act out the role of the impaired self. Still, other clients alternate between the two styles. It is important to identify the devaluing self-defense early. Oh, I gotta turn off this. This is one of these copyrighted. Let me close the door. The phone picks up this copyrighted music. This section might be trimmed out. Oops. How are we doing here? Oh, jeez. This is part of my learning curve here. I bumble like this. I'll process this afterwards and see if I can, in a future video, condense this, make it more clear. Better yet, if you get anything out of this video, I would say just find the book directly. It's called The Emerging Self. Do I have the cover of it here? Sorry. Okay, there it is. There's the book's name, The Emerging Self. A developmental self and object relations approach to the treatment of the closet narcissistic disorder of the self. Did I get it right? Did I get it? Oh, here's the front cover. Oh, sorry. Here's the front cover. The emerging self. The publisher is Brunner Maisel. And Masterson's a medical doctor. He's a bona fide shrink. 1993, yeah. Acknowledgements. First and foremost, I want to thank my patients for their generosity in giving permission for their cases to be used to help other therapists learn this approach. Their identities, of course, have been disguised. I wish to thank Ralph Klein, and so on down the line. All right. Oh, his wife is Patricia. Where is it here? Oh, I would like to thank my wife, Patricia. Okay. I wonder if she's a shrink or not. No. I've never seen anything from Patricia Masterson. I'm assuming she's not a shrinker. Oh my God, that'd be somebody to interview. Oh my God, if she were alive, for Pete's sakes, could somebody please interview her? What does she know about all this? Did Masterson shrink her? Or did he, or maybe she shrunk him, maybe she... Okay, in the introductory blurb, he gives a pretty clear summary of things. Yeah, okay, so this is sort of the introductory part. A therapist is baffled by a therapeutic impasse with the borderline client, asks for a consultation, and gives a good description of his situation. Lack of self-assertion, depression, clinging, difficulties with anger, impulse control, inadequate sense of self, denial of self-destructive behavior. You kind of think it's BPD, right? But that could also be the triggering of when the closet narcissist is triggered. But when the closet narcissist is triggered, i.e., feeling his abandonment depression, there's a lot of shared material when the BPD is triggered. So the diagnosis of borderline disorder of the self seemed feasible, correct? And the therapist used, therefore, the appropriate therapeutic intervention of confrontation. So they're healthier, they have a stronger ego, you can talk to them like directly, like adult to adult almost. But he didn't. It didn't work. See, you can't talk directly about psychological, emotional, directly with the narcissist, right? They get rage and attack you. They can't. With the borderline, you can. That's the level. They can. Borderlines are more like they're closer to the adult world. They don't look like it, but psychologically they are. But behaviorally, they're just so scrambled because there's no support to complete their development. The narcissists have foreclosed their development. They gave up on it, right? So they don't understand. They don't get it. That's why in the workplace, employers usually hire narcissists because they're manic, they're obsessive, they're focused on it. It's their defense against underlying shame and pain. So they're very focused on work. They deny their inner life and all their energies for the defense. They're workaholics. So if you own a factory and things are competitive, you might want to hire a more feelingly environment. But if you got to compete, maybe say, well, just hire all the workaholics. Are you all a workaholic? Do you deny your feelings in inner life? You go home and drink? Fine. But you come on time and work like manic? Fine, you're hired. So they make more money like that. But they don't relate. There's no care about others. So, however, the client, rather than integrating the confrontations to develop a working alliance, instead responded either by attacking the therapist or becoming more and more resistant, or by seeming to integrate, but without a change in affect or therapeutic alliance. The therapist felt more and more frustrated and defeated, and the pressure to blame the borderline client's stubbornness or intransience for this turn of events became irresistible as the therapist began to think, quote, shaking my head, these people are too difficult. I don't know how to help these people. How many papers on the borderline begin with this phrase? These difficult to treat borderline patients. However, these therapists had fallen prey to the most common diagnostic error with the personality disorders. He had mistaken a closet narcissist disorder of the self for a borderline disorder of the self. So this is one of Masterson's contributions, the distinction or the differential diagnosis between the closet narcissist versus the higher functioning borderline. You see, the lower functioning borderline, they're also narcissists. They're more like a bully type. If it's erratic, it's because it's a fusion between narcissism and bullyism. Then you got the lower functioning BPD, so it's more chaotic like that. That's the lower functioning one. When Masterson uses the word borderline, he means the higher functioning, caretaking borderline, a codependent one. I wish he simply said codependent, like not a narcissist codependent, like a codependent. See, you've got narcissist codependence. That's another thing. There's a difference between the closet narcissist and the clinging vine narcissist. So there's a difference between the clinging vine narcissist and the closet narcissist, but they also have things in common, right? And throughout the book, he says that sometimes you might wonder if really what's going on, there's a schizoid issue. They might be a turtle narcissist, but they may show symptoms on the surface that resemble the other types, hence the chameleon idea, right? Oh, we did that already. Okay, so that's from the manual, right? The exhibitionistic one. The closet narcissistic disorder of the self, clinically, most commonly can mimic chameleon, right? Mimic the borderline personality, but also less commonly the schizoid. This book shows how developmental self and object relations theory pierces the clinical confusion and enables the therapist to identify the consistent underlying intrapsychic structure and select the effective therapeutic approach. The closet narcissistic disorder of the self has a consistent underlying intrapsychic structure and an equally consistent defensive theme. Idealization or devaluation of the other to regulate how you feel about yourself. So, how you feel about yourself. You devalue others, say they're no good, or say they're amazing. That's both to regulate your feelings about yourself. So, there's a link between your opinion of others and your opinion of yourself. So you're going to feel better if you say they're no good, somehow. Or you might say, oh, they're so amazing and I feel better. If you say, they're so amazing and I feel better, that's the closet one. If you say, they're a fill in the blank and I feel better, that's the exhibitionistic, narcissistic one, the devaluing one. Okay, that's so this is mainly chapter 1 and a little bit of chapter 2. And there's that one there, and there's that one there. The four coins. And where's your libido? Like, where's your life force? You know. What else is coming up here? Oh, that's it. Okay, the number 3. Okay, chapter 3. Okay, so he goes through some examples of the difference between the exhibitionistic one and the closet one. So either you're grandiose, that's you, or you're deflated, that's the closet. So if you say I'm no good and you're deflated, that's the closet. If you say you're a king and a god, that's the grandiose, right? acting out. So the two of the common themes is the axiom, self-activation triggers abandonment depression, which leads to some kind of defense. And then the other theme is the person, this idealizing, devaluing thing, one up, one down stuff, right? To regulate your feelings. So you want to point it out to the person. So he points these things out to you. And then you get all these examples, right? The case of Mrs. Y here. And he runs through it all. He says, I wonder if she's borderline. No, that doesn't work. I wonder if she's closet narcissist. No, that didn't work. Oh, it turns out she's schizoid. Now, schizoid disorder of the self versus closet narcissistic disorder of the self. And so now you got the difference between the schizoid and the closet. The schizoid's way more detached, aloof, right? The closet is also like a closet, like detached within. They focus outwardly. Schizoid, turtle-ish. The closet has a turtle-ish side like that, but they feel no good. Schizoids feel no good. So what's the difference between those two, right? Well, the schizoid will never admire someone else, right? Like they would never admire another person. That's one thing, right? Schizoid, yeah, okay. Schizoid. Withdrawal, introversion, lack of feeling. Narcissistic. Narcissism, superiority, self-reliance. Borderline, loneliness, regression, feeling unreal. That's too general, right? Okay. See, here things move along, right? See this other one here? That's the schizoid one. See, things are more intense with this. See, Schizoids have a kind of a they have an exaggerated sense of it's more exaggerated the schizoid, the psychic structure. Schizoids are detached bullies, like they're closed off bullies. They're covert bullies, put it that way. The schizoids, many, not all, but some of them. Closet. And sometimes you have one that hides another, right? Exhibitionistic, narcissistic defense against the borderline. So the person's a borderline, but he hides it with the trait of narcissistic, exhibitionistic, narcissistic defense. So actually he's caring, but something makes him behave because of the environment in a cold way. So on the surface, he looks like a typical jerk, right? But underneath, he might be caring. Maybe like that, right? See, I haven't read this book in years. I haven't seen this. He reported, every time I activate myself, I feel disaster will strike and my mother will be upset. There is a hole where father had been, like he was excised. Father loved me far more than I thought. It's so painful, I don't remember caring about him until just now, and that it was fun to be with him. He began to sob. Mixed, oh boy. Okay. Psychotherapy. Oh, this might be the interesting one. Okay. Therapeutic neutrality, frame, stance. Okay, this is just some So this is specifically for the therapist. This section here addresses the therapist. Masterson is a supervisor. He owned his own school. He trained people to be therapists. Yeah, here's a good point. So when we talk about, we say real self-activation. What do you mean by real self? So he's got a few here. Real self. Well, you feel that you're competent, and it's based on a realistic thing here. You're both good and bad at the same time, and others are good and bad at the same time. It's not either or, it's both and. So the real self has a both and three-dimensional quality. It's not just either or. My greedy, your greedy. Oh no, we're wounded, crying for love. So the image is, so the self-image, okay, the self-image is I'm okay, you're okay. I'm okay but wounded, you're okay but wounded, kind of thing. Everyone loves or cries for love. Okay, number 2, self-assertion. So you're able to identify and activate thoughts and feelings. Self-assertion, to identify and activate individual thoughts and feelings. So you can articulate what are you thinking and feeling. I think this and I feel this, maybe. Okay, and if someone says, no, you don't, someone tries to gaslight you, you can say, oh, excuse me, are you trying to gaslight me here? Are you engaged in gaslighting? Support the self when under attack. Act in a spontaneous, self-supportive, adaptive, realistic manner regarding exercise, diet, work, health, schedule, appearance, physical care. So you take care of yourself physically. You express yourself in your work, play, and love. You can regulate, you can soothe yourself. Autonomous functioning of self, sense of self. You feel that you have a sense of self. It's an autonomous sense of self. Not a narcissistic defensive structure. It's different. The real self has a quality of beingness, a sense of beingness. Identifying and expressing one's unique creative ideas and urges. Seeking others as they are, seeing others as they are in reality, both good and bad at the same time. That's a key one. Being able to acknowledge one's own self-activation and to set self-limits. Maintaining self-esteem by coping with and mastering reality. Having the capacity for continuity, commitment, and intimacy. A capacity to feel and express empathy with the object. Okay, so these are some of the points about the real self that's damaged with trauma. So we're trying to get that back, kind of thing. You had it. It was a budding beauty in you. I want to get it back. Types of therapy, short-term, long-term. Okay, conclusion. Acting out. The disembodied heart and the latchkey child. Okay, so now you got all the case histories here. Okay. So you got a 40-year-old woman who is a successful interior decorator and the divorced mother of 2 children. So this woman, so he gives you an example of Miss, what's her name? Mrs., let's see. What does he call her? Miss A. Okay, Mrs. A. So you got an example of Mrs. A here. 2nd month, 3rd month, 4th month. Okay, 5 months, 6 months. So he gives you a summary of this case. So Miss A here, 9 months. On average, these people go for therapy for 2 years. The typical process is 2 years, maybe 3, but somewhere between 2 and 3 years, 15 months, 16th month. Okay, so this one, so Miss A, it took her 16 months to fix herself. Okay, Mr. B, a 55-year-old overweight fellow, successful lawyer, divorced 3 times. Okay, so you got his chief complaint. What's your chief complaint? What ails thee? chief complaint, history, family history, personal history, clinical impression. Okay, what does he think? Diagnosis. Could it be this? Could it be that? Therapy. Okay, first month, second month, third month, fourth month, fifth month, 6 months, seventh. Interpretation of empathy failure. I interpreted that he was exquisitely sensitive to my responses, and that if I felt I was not responding as he needed me to, he would feel disappointed and left to his own devices. He would have to soothe these feelings by emotional detachment and retreating into cynicism. He responded, as a child, I felt alone with my pain. Nobody could help me. I had to do it myself. I reinterpreted that his feeling about my lack of attention triggered the disappointment at being left to his own devices. 8th month, 9th month, 10th. See, when you get these interpretations, all these dreams, people bring in all these dreams. When you get feedback like this, it brings up more material from the dreams. 16th, 18th month. Okay, this is 18 months, right? So this guy was a year and a half, right? So that's the second one. The third one, Mr. C. Mr. C. So he goes through this one here with Mr. C. So these read like novel. It's almost like a novel, right? If you like novels, you better read this. I often skip these kind of things, to the truth. But in the case of Masterson, no, I'm going to read these later on. 15th month, 16th month. You see, it's about 2 years, right? 16 months, you know. Oh, Mr. D, a 50-year-old married businessman. Okay, had a physical problem. So there's Mr. D. Oh, there's the codependent one. Yeah, okay. So he's afraid of him. He's afraid to be on his own. So this is the fourth one, right? And memories come up to you, like things you never thought about. Oh my God, I remember this. So as you're free associating, you're finding your story, you're finding your true story. This is narrative medicine. 16th month, 17th. Rage at mother leads to separation anxiety and awareness that self-activation equals death. Yeah. So some people think if they self-activate, they're going to die, right? They're so afraid of that. 20 months. 20 months. That's Mr. D. Okay, so there's 4 case studies. And then part 3 is about countertransference and projective identification. Oh yeah, okay, that's the third part. So the book's in 3 parts, yeah. Good book. This is a very good book, I think. Okay, so there's 4 case histories. 4 case histories in this book, I think. See, the closet narcissists, they look so polite and kind of like they're nice to you or something, but there's no warm relating. Like there's if they can bask in the other person's exhibitionism, fine. So they look for people with those status-like things to in place of or in vicarious glowing in of the other person's power, status, fame. They think it's theirs. When that's interrupted, then they feel depressed, right? So they try to maintain him. But the other person always acting like a king and a god, he can maintain that thing. He never needs to go to therapy. How are we doing here? Should we wrap it up here? 3:10? Oh, this is a rare treat. These mid-afternoon, sometimes it's quiet like this. Let's see, maybe I can play a song or something. Oh, the one below. Okay, I'm not gonna do the ones below. How shall we wind down this video? Omawumi, play that one again, Omawumi. There's a fun dance number. There's a dance company that does a fun little energizing routine to Omawumi's song, If You Ask Me. Her big hit is called If You Ask Me. A Nigerian pop diva. Play that, or play the Partridge Family. Oh, we could play that one, right? Partridge Family. What's it called? Lying to Myself. Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'll play this. I'll play this dance thing to the song Omo. If You Ask Me, showing up there. And I think when the song ends, I'll close up the video. Man, oh man, I rambled on in a confusing way. This has been a very haphazard, choppy. This is one of the most choppiest, vaguest videos I've done. I've done some pretty clear, consistent, to the point videos lately. This one, I'm on, I'm a little off here. So the takeaway is, there's a difference between, the takeaway is, there seems to be such a thing as what Masterson calls the closet narcissistic personality disorder. Whatever term you want to use for it, I don't know. I always called it like the voyeur. I always thought of it like kind of like a voyeur thing, but I'm missing something with it. You got it. It's the same psychic structure as the exhibitionistic one, so they're the same. But the closet one, lives through the other, who is the exhibitionistic one, right? The exhibitionistic one is fine to have the closet one around. That's fine. They love the admiration. And if the closet one is rejected or something, he'll get depressed. But the exhibitionistic one just moves on to the next one, right? It's nothing to them, right? It's the kind of thing. So in other words, a Don Juan can be a Don Juan his whole life, right? In other words. And that exhibitionistic place, Don Juan or not, the exhibitionistic one, it's a defensive structure. It's a defensive living. It's got to be so hardened in the defense because there must be so much shame and pain underneath. So they're so focused on preserving the infantile megalomania and getting others to admire them for that. They cannot self-activate with the feelings, so the narcissist typically cannot bridge love and sex, right? It won't be bridged. If there's any emotional involvement, if there's meant to be any kind of emotional involvement, forget it. Right? Only if there's no emotional involvement, that's the mistress one or the whatever. I did a quick search this morning, closet narcissistic disorder. Are other people talking about it? Not really, not really. So what other label are people using for this thing? So they look like pleasers in a way, like they admire, oh, you're so great, oh yeah, they might look very polite maybe, like they might look, how great you are and all that, I'm so impressed with you. They might be very focused outwardly like that. So it looks like they're pleasers or something. They're not pleasing, there's a difference. The codependence and they're pleasing you, how can I make you happy? No, they just say you're amazing and I want to bask in that. There's a real difference, right, like that. Okay, let's play the song here. Let's wrap it up here today. And I'll see you in the next video. May the psychoanalytic force be with you. Talk about exhibitionism, right? But that doesn't mean if somebody likes dancing, it doesn't mean they're a narcissist. You cannot tell from the outer behavior what the underlying structure is. They might all be healthy, emotionally, psychologically healthy people, you know. Janoff would say if you're very athletic and if you're a good dancer with rhythm, that means you were not traumatized in the uterus. People who are traumatized in the uterus often are not very good, they're not coordinated like this. So if you're a good dancer, good with sports, good with music, chances are you were not traumatized in the uterus. Okay, see you in the next video. Thanks very much.